What if the life you are living, with all its struggles and triumphs, its joys and its sorrows, isn't a solid, unchangeable reality, but a profoundly intricate and vivid dream? What if the people you meet, the circumstances you face, and the body you inhabit are not separate from you, but are projections of you, emanating from the deepest core of your own consciousness? We spend our entire lives acting as if we are strangers in a foreign land, reacting to a world that seems to be happening to us. We fight, we struggle, we chase, we retreat, all based on the core assumption that reality is a fixed, external force, and we are merely players on its stage, trying to learn our lines and navigate the scenery as best we can. We try to change the world outside of ourselves, believing that if we could just arrange the people, the money, and the events into the correct pattern, we would finally find peace. We would finally feel whole. But this entire effort is based on a fundamental misinterpretation of how life works, a grand illusion upheld only by the testimony of our five senses. Ancient philosophy, esoteric wisdom, and even the startling discoveries of modern quantum physics all point to the same staggering truth. The world you experience is not separate from you at all. It is a perfect, flawless mirror, reflecting in stunning detail everything that you assume, believe, and feel to be true on the inside. You are not the actor in a pre-written play. You are the author, the director, and the sole audience of your own cosmic dream. The great challenge is that we have been conditioned to believe in the dream's reality so completely that we have forgotten we are the dreamer. So how do we begin to remember? How do we awaken to our own power? The answer lies in immersion, in saturating our minds with this truth until it overwrites the old programming of limitation. And in our modern world, there is no tool more potent for this than the audiobook. As you drive, as you walk, as you work, you can allow the transformative words of the great mystics and masters of the mind to wash over you, to seep past the critical gatekeeper of your conscious mind and plant powerful seeds in the fertile soil of your subconscious. This is not just a journey of learning, but of becoming. It is the journey of waking up from within the dream. As we awaken within this dream, the first and most fundamental principle we must grasp is the law of the mirror. Imagine for a moment that you are standing in a vast, circular room, and the walls are not walls at all, but a single, continuous, floor-to-ceiling mirror. Every direction you turn, you see only yourself. If you smile, the entire world smiles back at you. If you frown, you are surrounded by a sea of frowning faces. If you raise your hand in a gesture of peace, a million hands rise in unison to greet you. This room is not a metaphor. It is the nature of your reality. The world you perceive is not a collection of random people and disconnected events. It is a perfect, unerring reflection of your own state of consciousness. The great 20th century mystic, Neville Goddard, whose lectures you can find preserved in powerful audio recordings that can fundamentally reshape your understanding of life, distilled this profound truth into a single, startling phrase. Everyone is you pushed out. This does not mean that other people have no independent consciousness. It means that the version of them that you experience, the role they play in your life's drama, is determined by you. They are messengers, showing you, through their behavior, what you secretly believe and assume about yourself and about them. The critical relative who always finds fault in you is simply the mirror image of your own inner self-critic. The partner who seems distant and emotionally unavailable is reflecting back to you your own fear of intimacy or a deep-seated assumption that you are not truly worthy of devoted love. The boss who never recognizes your contributions is playing the part that you have assigned them, a part that confirms your own hidden belief that your work is not valuable or that you are destined to be overlooked. We see this mirrored in every facet of our existence. Look at your financial world. Is it a world of abundance, ease, and flow? Or is it a constant struggle, a landscape of lack, debt, and missed opportunities? The world itself is neutral. It simply reflects the dominant beliefs of the one perceiving it. A consciousness that is saturated with thoughts of scarcity, that constantly says, "I can't afford that," or "there's never enough," or "money is hard to come by," will find itself in a world that perfectly validates these beliefs. The bills will pile up. The unexpected expenses will arise. The job opportunities will vanish just out of reach. Not because the world is cruel, but because the mirror is perfect. It must show you the reflection of the consciousness you hold. Conversely, a consciousness of wealth, a genuine inner feeling of abundance and security, will find itself in a world where opportunities appear as if from nowhere, where money flows easily and freely, where generosity is met with more to be generous with. The mirror simply changes its reflection to match the new image being held before it. The same is true for your health. For your very physical vessel, a mind in a constant state of anxiety, worry, and inner turmoil is sending signals of disease throughout the body. To live in a state of fear is to tell your body that it is under constant threat. Over time, the physical mirror begins to reflect this inner state of emergency. This is not about blame. It is about empowerment. It is about understanding the profound connection between your inner world of thought and feeling and your outer world of experience. The greatest mistake we make, the source of all our frustration and suffering, is that we try to change the reflection in the mirror instead of changing ourselves. Imagine the absurdity of a man who wakes up, looks in his bathroom mirror, and sees a spot of dirt on his face. Does he try to wipe the mirror clean? Does he yell at the reflection, demanding that it remove the dirt? Does he plead with it, or try to smash it in frustration? No. The action is so simple and obvious that we don't even think about it. He understands instinctively that the reflection is just an image, and to change it, he must wash his own face. Yet, in the grand mirror of life, we do the equivalent of yelling at the reflection every single day. We try to force our spouse to be more loving while we harbor feelings of resentment. We demand respect from our colleagues while we secretly feel unworthy. We fight with our economic conditions while our inner state is one of perpetual lack. We are trying to paint a smile on the reflection while our own face is set in a scowl of negativity. It is an impossible, exhausting, and futile endeavor. The reflection can do nothing on its own. It can only show you what you are giving it. True change, therefore, is always an inside job. It is a change in your concept of yourself. There is a powerful story Neville Goddard often told in his lectures. A story that perfectly illustrates this principle in action. A young woman felt completely trapped in her job. She felt she was underpaid, overworked, and utterly unappreciated by her superiors and colleagues. Her first impulse was to do what most of us would do. To change the external world. She would complain to her friends. She would look for other jobs. She would argue in her mind with her boss. She was trying to scrub the mirror, following Neville's guidance. She tried a radical new approach. For several nights in a row, as she was lying in bed in that quiet, drowsy state just before sleep, she stopped replaying the grievances of the day. Instead, she constructed a new reality in her mind's eye. She imagined, in vivid detail, a conversation with her boss. In this scene, he was not criticizing her. but congratulating her on her excellent work and offering her a significant promotion. She didn't just see it. She felt it. She felt the thrill of being recognized, the relief and joy of the promotion, the warmth of his handshake. She then imagined telling her family the good news. Feeling their pride and happiness for her, she looped this imaginary scene over and over again, allowing the feeling of its reality to saturate her being until she fell asleep in that new state. She did not lift a finger in the external world to make this happen. She simply changed the image she was holding up to the mirror. Within a short period, the outer world, which has no choice but to conform, began to shift. Her boss, seemingly out of the blue, started assigning her more important projects. Colleagues who had been distant began to seek her advice. The entire atmosphere of her workplace transformed. And then, one day, she was called into her boss's office. And the exact scene she had imagined played out in physical reality, including the congratulations and the promotion she had already accepted in her imagination. The people didn't change. The role they were playing in her reality changed, because she had rewritten the script internally. This is the power you possess. Your life is not happening to you. It is happening from you. Every moment is an opportunity to look at the reflection and ask, what in me is causing this? What assumption am I holding that is making this person act this way? Or this situation persist? The moment you stop blaming the mirror and take full responsibility for the image you are projecting, you move from a state of victimhood to one of sovereign power. You take the pen back into your own hand. You are no longer the clay. You are the sculptor. The world is waiting, patiently and lovingly, to show you the beautiful masterpiece you have decided to become. It can reflect back to you a reality of joy, abundance, health, and love. But you must be the first to generate that image within. You must change your concept of yourself. So, if the world is a mirror, and we must change ourselves to change the reflection, what is the divine faculty we use to shape this new self? Where is the workshop in which these new realities are forged? The answer lies not in the external world of hard facts and solid matter, but in the internal world of infinite possibility, in the divine studio where all creation begins. Your own wonderful human imagination. If the world is a mirror, then your imagination is the studio where you sculpt the self that the world will reflect. We have been taught, almost from birth, to dismiss imagination. We are told it is the realm of children, a fanciful escape from the real world of facts, figures, and hard consequences. This is the greatest lie we have ever been told. A lie designed to keep us feeling powerless, to keep us focused on reacting to the reflection in the mirror, rather than consciously creating the image that casts it. The truth is that your imagination is the one and only creative power in the universe. It is not an escape from reality. It is the very womb of reality. It is, as Neville Goddard called it, the workshop of God. And within this workshop, you are the master artisan, shaping the substance of life itself. First, we must draw a clear and powerful distinction between idle daydreaming and a true, creative imaginal act. Daydreaming is passive. It is what most of us do when we think about our desires. We think of the thing we want. We look at it from a distance, as if viewing it through a shop window. When we daydream about wealth, we see ourselves holding money, but we feel our present lack. When we daydream of love, we picture a happy scene, but it is tinged with the loneliness of our current state. This kind of imagination is weak. It is looking at the goal, and by its very nature, it affirms the distance between us and it. A creative imaginal act is the complete opposite. It is active, dynamic, and immersive. You do not think of your desire. You think from your desire. You are no longer the spectator looking at the shop window. You have stepped through the glass and are living the experience in the first person. This is the crucial difference, the pivot point upon which all creation turns. To think of a state is to be outside of it. To think from a state is to be inside of it, to occupy it. The reason this distinction is so powerful lies in how the deeper levels of your mind operate, your subconscious mind. The loyal servant that directs the energy of the universe on your behalf is entirely impersonal. It does not judge, it does not reason, and most importantly, it cannot distinguish between an experience that is physically happening and an experience that is being lived with full sensory vividness within your imagination. When you perform a disciplined, focused imaginal act, you are creating an experience. You are generating a memory of an event that has not yet happened in the three-dimensional world. Your subconscious mind accepts this new memory as a fact. And because the outer world is simply a mirror of the inner facts of your consciousness, the world must then begin to shift and rearrange itself to reflect this new truth you have established within. The imaginal act is the blueprint. The universe is the builder. The builder does not question the blueprint. It simply builds what it is given. So how do we, as practical dreamers, construct a powerful imaginal act? The process is simple, disciplined, and profoundly effective. The first step is to know exactly what you want. Be clear and specific. Not how it will come about, that is the universe's business. And trying to dictate the how will only introduce resistance. You must focus solely on the end, the wish fulfilled. Once you have your desired end in mind, you construct a short, simple scene, a single event, which implies that the wish has already been realized. This is the art of it. If you desire marriage, you do not imagine the wedding ceremony, which is a process. You imagine a scene that implies the wedding is already in your past. Perhaps you are simply feeling the solid, cool weight of a wedding band on your finger as you go about a mundane task, like holding a coffee cup. The feeling of that ring on your finger is a fact that implies the entire story of a proposal and a wedding. If you desire to be healed, do not imagine the process of a medicine working. Instead, imagine yourself doing something you could not do when you were ill. Imagine joyfully running up a flight of stairs, or playing with your children in the park, feeling the strength and vitality in your body. This is a scene from after the fulfillment. Once you have your short, simple scene, the next step is to enter the workshop, preferably in a state of relaxation, like the drowsy, meditative state you enter just before falling asleep. Now, you bring your scene to life by clothing it in as much sensory vividness as you can muster. You must make the dream world more real than the waking world. Engage all your senses. What do you see in your scene? Don't just see a wall. See the texture of the paint, the way the light hits it. What do you hear? Is a friend congratulating you? Hear the specific tone of their voice. Feel the reality of their words. What do you touch? This is often the most powerful sense for anchoring an imaginal act. If your scene is about owning a new car, feel the cool, smooth leather of the steering wheel under your fingertips. If it's about reconciliation with a loved one, feel the texture of their sweater in your embrace. What do you smell or taste? The celebratory glass of champagne, the salt in the ocean air at your dream destination. By giving your imaginal scene the tones of reality, you are convincing your subconscious mind that this event is not a fantasy. It is a fact. You must also ensure you are performing this act in the first person. You are not watching a movie of yourself being successful. You are the successful person. You are looking out through your own eyes, hearing with your own ears, feeling with your own hands. The audiobooks of teachers like Neville Goddard and Joseph Murphy are treasure troves filled with astonishing, documented accounts of this principle in action. They tell of families who, while living in poverty in a tiny apartment, would mentally sleep each night in their dream home. They wouldn't just picture it. They would walk the halls in their imagination. They would touch the furniture. They would look out of the specific windows and see the specific trees they desired. They did this until the feeling of living in that house became more natural and real to them than their physical surroundings. Then, through a series of events they could never have predicted, what Neville called a bridge of incidents, they were led to acquire that exact house. There are stories of artists who imagined their paintings hanging in prestigious galleries, feeling the pride and seeing their name on the wall, only to have a gallery owner discover them weeks later. Businessmen on the brink of bankruptcy, who would sit quietly in their office and imagine the phone ringing with orders, feeling the relief and excitement, and then witness their fortunes turn around as if by a miracle. These are not miracles. They are demonstrations of a universal law. They are the natural consequence of ceasing to beg the external world to change, and instead entering the divine workshop of imagination and creating a new blueprint for the world to follow. This is not mere positive thinking. Positive thinking is often a form of struggle, an attempt to paper over negative feelings with happy words. This is creative dreaming. This is the disciplined art of dying to your present reality and your present self, and being reborn into the reality of your choice. You must be willing to suspend the evidence of your senses. You must be willing to trust what you have created in your imagination more than you trust what you see with your physical eyes. For a moment, you live in two worlds. But if you persist in your imaginal act, if you remain faithful to your unseen reality, the unseen will inevitably become seen. The blueprint will become the building. You have entered the workshop and sculpted a new form for your life. You have created the perfect, flawless mold in the quiet of your mind. But a mold, a blueprint, no matter how perfect, is still static. It needs life. It needs energy to bring it forth from the world of shadow into the world of substance. We must now breathe fire into it. We must infuse it with the very current of creation itself. That fire, that divine electricity, is feeling. If the blueprint of imagination is the skeleton of creation, then feeling is its lifeblood, its nervous system, its beating heart, an image in the mind. No matter how clear or detailed, it remains a cold and powerless phantom until it is animated by feeling. It is feeling that impresses the subconscious mind. It is feeling that changes your vibrational signature. And it is feeling that is the true secret to consciously creating your reality. You can spend years crafting the most beautiful and intricate mental images, but if they are not fused with the fire of emotion, they are like unlit fireworks, holding a promise of brilliance that will never be realized. This is perhaps the most misunderstood aspect of the creative law. We have been told to think positively, but we have not been told to feel positively. And in that distinction lies the difference between impotent wishing and sovereign creating. The core of this secret lies in understanding the immense difference between thinking of your desire and thinking from your desire. When you think of something you want, you are acknowledging its absence. Your point of focus is you, here, and the desire is over there, separate, at a distance. This creates the feeling of longing, of wanting, of yearning, and the universe, in its perfect, impersonal way, does not respond to the words you say or the pictures you make. It responds to the feeling you are embodying. So if you are feeling the ache of longing, the universe will dutifully bring you more circumstances that cause you to feel the ache of longing. You are praying from the state of lack, and the only answer to that prayer can be more lack. This is the tragic loop that keeps so many people stuck. They spend their days thinking about being wealthy, which makes them feel their current poverty even more acutely. They think about being in a loving relationship, which only serves to amplify their present feeling of loneliness. They are sending out a powerful, consistent signal of absence, and the mirror of reality has no choice but to reflect that absence back to them. To think from your desire is a radical shift in consciousness. It is to mentally and emotionally inhabit the state of the wish fulfilled. You are no longer the person on the outside looking in. You are the person on the inside looking out. You are not thinking about health. You are thinking from the feeling of vigor, strength, and well-being. You are not thinking about success. You are thinking from the quiet confidence and satisfaction of the person who has already succeeded. You stop saying "I want" and you start feeling "I am." You stop praying for your desire and you start giving thanks from your desire. This is the feeling of fulfillment, the feeling of the prayer already answered. This is the vibrational frequency that the universe responds to. It is a signal that says, the blueprint has changed. The old reality of lack is no longer who I am. This new reality of fulfillment is my true state now, and the builders of the universe hear this signal and get to work, rearranging the shadows of the world to match the new light you are emitting. This concept is often discussed as vibration in the language of the law of attraction. But let us demystify this. Your vibration is not some complex, esoteric energy you need a special device to measure. Your vibration is simply your dominant mood, your prevailing feeling state. That is all it is. Your feelings are the frequency you are broadcasting to the universe. And the law states that like frequencies attract, you do not attract what you want. You attract what you are. If you are constantly embodying the feeling of frustration and anxiety, you will attract more situations that make you feel frustrated and anxious. If you can, through a disciplined use of your imagination, begin to cultivate and embody the feeling of peace, gratitude, and fulfillment, you will inevitably attract circumstances that match those feelings. You cannot tune your radio to the frequency of classical music and expect to hear rock and roll. Likewise, you cannot broadcast the frequency of despair and expect to receive the reality of joy. You must change the station. You must change your feeling. This is why the common mantra of "fake it till you make it" is so often a trap. To fake something implies a conscious knowledge of its falsity. It is an act of pretense. If you walk around with a forced smile on your face while your stomach is churning with anxiety, you are creating an internal war. Your subconscious mind is not fooled by the mask you wear for the world. It responds to the authentic feeling within. The secret is not to fake the feeling, but to use your imagination to generate a real feeling from an imagined cause. This is the work of the actor, the artist, the creator. You do not need to pretend to anyone. You simply retreat into the private theater of your mind. You stage the scene of your wish fulfilled, and you allow yourself to be so completely absorbed in that scene that it produces a genuine emotional response in you. You feel the thrill, the relief, the gratitude, the joy, as if it were actually happening. That feeling is real. You have created it. And that real feeling is the currency you use to purchase your desire from the storehouse of the infinite. There are many simple techniques, or lullabies, as Neville called them, for cultivating this feeling. One of the most powerful is to distill your desire into a simple phrase that implies fulfillment. A phrase you can repeat as you drift into sleep. A phrase like, "Isn't it wonderful?" or simply, "Thank you." These phrases are not the goal, they are vehicles for a feeling. When you repeat, "Isn't it wonderful?" you are gently nudging your mind to find a feeling of wonder and gratitude. When you sincerely whisper, "Thank you," into the darkness, you are embodying the feeling of a prayer that has already been answered. Another technique is to focus on a single, imagined sensory act. and the feeling it produces. Feel the imaginary wedding ring on your finger until it feels more real than its absence. Feel the keys to your new home in your hand, cool and solid, until the feeling of ownership permeates your being. These simple acts, when persisted in, will generate the feeling of reality. In many ancient spiritual texts, this process is compared to planting a seed. A tiny acorn does not struggle or strain to become a mighty oak tree. It does not worry or feel anxious about its potential. Within that tiny seed is the pattern and the feeling essence of the oak. It simply rests in the assumption of its own nature. Our task is the same. Once we have created the feeling of the wish fulfilled in our imagination, we must rest in that feeling with the same quiet confidence as the seed. The wonderful 20th century teacher, Florence Scovel Shinn, whose audiobooks are filled with joyous and practical wisdom, taught that life is a game, and we must play it with unwavering faith. She urged her students to impress the subconscious mind with a feeling of joyous expectancy, to celebrate the desired outcome before there was any evidence of it. This is not about desperate struggle. It is about playful creation. You plant your seed, your imaginal act fused with feeling, with joy and thanks, and then you let it go, trusting that the divine laws of growth will take care of the rest. We have now assembled the essential components of creation. We have taken the blueprint from the workshop of imagination, a clear and specific image of our desired end. We have breathed life into it, infusing it with the authentic, powerful, and transformative fire of feeling. In our hands, we now hold not a dead image, but a living, spiritual seed, a self-contained reality pulsating with the feeling of life itself. The creative act, in the spiritual dimension, is finished. It is done. Now, we must take this potent seed and plant it in the one and only soil from which all physical things grow. The dark, fertile, and ever-obedient garden of your subconscious mind. If your imagination is the workshop and your feeling is the fire of creation, then your subconscious mind is the vast, mysterious, and utterly fertile garden where the seeds of reality are planted. This is not the conscious reasoning mind you are using to listen to these words. This is the deeper mind, a silent partner in your existence, the intelligence that keeps your heart beating without your command, that heals a cut while you sleep, that holds the blueprint for every cell in your body. In the ancient wisdom traditions, this deeper mind is known by many names, but for our purpose, we will call it the loyal servant. It is a servant of unimaginable power and scope, but it is a servant nonetheless. Its master is your conscious, choosing mind. The tragedy is that for most of our lives, we have been an absent, unaware, and careless master. Think of your subconscious mind as a plot of infinitely fertile soil in a dark, warm garden. This soil has no preferences. It has no will of its own. Its nature is simply to grow. It will accept any seed you give it, without question or judgment. If you plant a seed of a beautiful, fragrant rose, the soil will take that seed, nurture it with all its power, and bring forth a perfect rose. If you plant a seed of deadly nightshade, the soil will accept it with the same impartiality, applying the same life-giving energy to bring forth a perfectly poisonous plant. The soil does not care. Its loyalty is to the seed. Your beliefs, your dominant feelings, and the scenes you create in your imagination are these seeds. Your subconscious mind is the soil. It will faithfully grow the seeds of success, love, and health. Or it will just as faithfully grow the weeds of failure, loneliness, and disease. It simply grows what is planted. For most of us, this garden is not a pristine, empty plot. From the moment we were born, seeds have been scattered into it, often without our knowledge or consent. Our parents, with their fears and limitations, planted seeds. Our teachers, with their beliefs about the world, planted seeds. Society, culture, and the media are constantly flinging seeds of lack, competition, and fear into our gardens. More than that, our own repeated reactions to life have planted the most deeply rooted trees. Every time you reacted with anger, you watered the seed of anger. Every time you accepted a thought of, "I'm not good enough," you fertilized the weed of unworthiness. It is now understood that this subconscious programming, these established plants in our garden, run approximately 95% of our daily life. Our automatic emotional reactions, our ingrained habits, our personality traits, and the very limits of what we believe is possible for us are all just the rustling leaves of the trees planted long ago in our subconscious. This is why real change can feel so difficult. The 5% of you that is your conscious willpower may decide to be confident and successful, but it is like a single person with a machete trying to clear a dense, ancient jungle that makes up the other 95% of you. The old programming simply pulls you back onto the familiar, well-worn paths to cultivate a new reality. We cannot simply fight the old jungle. We must learn how to plant new, more powerful seeds that will eventually grow so large they overshadow the old weeds, causing them to wither from lack of light. We must learn the art of impressing the subconscious mind. There are specific gateways, specific moments when the soil of the subconscious is most receptive. The most potent of these is the state just before sleep, this drowsy, dreamlike state, known as the hypnagogic state, or what Neville Goddard called the state akin to sleep sats, is the golden hour for the spiritual gardener. In this state, the conscious, analytical mind, the gatekeeper who so often argues for limitation, begins to drift. Its guard is down. As your body relaxes and your mind quiets, a direct channel to the subconscious opens. This is the moment to introduce your new seed. This is the time to perform your imaginal act, to feel the reality of your wish fulfilled. The feeling of success, of health, of being loved, when generated in this state, sinks deep into the fertile soil without resistance. It is accepted as a new truth. Another key to impressing the subconscious is repetition. A single planting may be enough if the feeling is intense, but for deeply ingrained beliefs, repetition is the master key. Persistently returning to the same imaginal act, night after night, is like watering your new seed. You are wearing a new, positive groove into your consciousness. You are establishing a new habit of thought and feeling. Eventually, through this loving persistence, the new belief will become your dominant assumption. It will become the new default program. You will find yourself automatically thinking and feeling from your desired state. Not because you are trying, but because it has become your nature. It has taken root. This is why conscious affirmations, on their own, so often fail. A person stands in front of the mirror and repeats, "I am wealthy," while their entire being is conditioned by years of programming. Screams back, "No, you are poor." This creates an internal battle, a state of conflict. The subconscious mind, being the seat of your deeper feelings and beliefs, rejects the affirmation because it doesn't feel true. It's like scattering seeds onto hard, sun-baked concrete. They will not take root. An affirmation is only powerful when it is accepted by the subconscious, and it is accepted not because of the word, but because of the feeling behind the words. Chanting affirmations in a state of anxiety is useless. Whispering a single, feeling-drenched lullaby to yourself in the sat state. As you drift into peace, is profoundly powerful. The great writer and teacher Dr. Joseph Murphy, whose audiobook, The Power of Your Subconscious Mind, is a practical manual for this work, filled his books with documented case studies of this principle. He told of a man tormented by alcoholism for years. Willpower had failed him. Shaming him had failed him. In desperation, he began a simple practice. Every night, in a sat state, he would repeat a simple phrase over and over again. As a lullaby, I am whole and free and at peace. Sobriety and peace of mind are my normal state. He did not fight the old desire. He simply planted the new seed of his freedom and wholeness. He lulled himself to sleep with this new assumption about himself. Within a short time, the compulsion to drink simply vanished. It had been uprooted from the subconscious garden. Murphy tells of a famous singer who lost her voice due to severe stage fright. The doctors could find nothing physically wrong. She had planted a seed of fear so deeply that it was manifesting as a physical paralysis of her vocal cords. She began to impress her subconscious mind with a new idea. 3 times a day, she would relax and affirm with deep feeling, I sing beautifully. I am calm, poised, and confident. My voice is a gift, and I share it with joy. She was planting new seeds of confidence and success, replacing the old weeds of fear. Her voice returned, more powerful than before. Your subconscious mind is your most loyal servant. It wants to give you whatever you desire. It is a creative medium that takes the impression of your beliefs and brings them to life. Understanding this is the key to freedom. You are not a victim of its programming. You are its master programmer, the tool of imagination and the energy of feeling. When applied in the receptive state before sleep, allow you to write a new code for your life. But this realization brings with it a profound responsibility. It is wonderful to learn how to plant a beautiful new rose in your garden at night. But what is the point? If you spend all the waking hours of your day carelessly allowing others to throw handfuls of weed seeds into the same soil, or if you, through your own undisciplined thoughts, pour poison on the very ground you are trying to cultivate to successfully grow this new reality. We must not only plant the right seeds in the quiet of the night, but we must also become vigilant guardians of our garden during the chaos of the day. We must learn to starve the weeds of doubt and consciously feed the flower of our faith. This requires a new kind of discipline, a practice known as the mental diet. You have entered the sacred workshop of your imagination. You have ignited your creation with the fire of feeling, and you have planted the living seed of your desire into the fertile, receptive garden of your subconscious mind. The creative act is done. In the unseen realm, your desire is already a fact, but now begins the work of the guardian, the most crucial and often most challenging phase of creation. You must now protect that fragile, newly planted seed from the harsh elements of the world and, more importantly, from the weeds of your own undisciplined mind. This period of gestation requires a new kind of vigilance. It requires you to adopt what the great 20th century spiritual teacher Emmett Fox called a strict mental diet. Just as a physical diet involves carefully choosing what you allow into your body, a mental diet involves consciously choosing what you allow into your mind. For most of us, our minds are like a public street corner, where any stray thought is allowed to wander in, set up camp, and make noise. Thoughts of worry, doubt, fear, criticism, jealousy, and resentment are allowed to parade through our consciousness all day long. And we mistake this chaotic noise for our own identity. A mental diet is the act of putting a sentinel at the gate of your mind and refusing entry to any thought that is not in alignment with the reality you have chosen to create. Emmett Fox proposed a powerful exercise, the 7-day mental diet. The rule is deceptively simple. For 7 consecutive days, You are forbidden from dwelling on any negative thought. This doesn't just mean anger or sadness. It includes any thought rooted in lack or limitation. It means no self-pity, no criticism of others, no worrying about the future, no regretting the past, no cynicism, and absolutely no doubt about the fulfillment of your desire. The reason this discipline is so essential is that your new assumption, the seed you planted in the subconscious, is like a delicate seedling in its early stages. It is alive, but it is vulnerable. Every time you choose to entertain a thought that contradicts your desire, you are pouring a drop of poison onto that seedling. Every time you worry about how your desire will manifest, you are trying to dig up the seed to see if it's growing. A process that inevitably kills it. If you have assumed the feeling of being perfectly healthy, but you spend your day complaining about aches and pains or Googling symptoms, you are sending contradictory orders to your loyal servant. The subconscious, you are planting a rose at night and watering it with weed killer all day. The subconscious mind, which operates on the basis of your dominant belief, becomes confused. It receives the order for health, but it also receives repeated, emotionally charged orders for sickness. In this state of confusion, it will default to the most familiar, deeply rooted program, which is usually the old negative state you are trying to change. The mental diet is the practice of ensuring that for a sustained period, only one pure, clear, and positive command is being sent to the subconscious. It is the practice of feeding your new creation with only the sunlight of faith and the clean water of a positive mental attitude. The practical application of the mental diet is a three-step process: catch, stop, and replace. First, you must cultivate the art of self-observation. You must become the watcher of your thoughts, an impartial witness to the activity of your mind. You will be astonished, and perhaps horrified, to discover the sheer volume of negative and useless thinking you unconsciously engage in. The goal is to catch a negative thought the moment it arises, before it has a chance to gather momentum and generate a negative feeling. This is your point of power. In the past, that negative thought would have hijacked your attention and led you down a familiar rabbit hole of worry. But now, as the vigilant guardian, you catch it at the gate. The second step is to stop it in its tracks. You can do this with a powerful pattern interrupt. The moment you catch a thought of doubt or fear, you can mentally shout stop or next or delete. You are refusing to engage with it. You are treating it like an unwanted spam email. You are not going to open it, read it, or consider its contents. You are simply marking it for deletion. This act of refusal is a declaration of your sovereignty. You are stating that you are the master of your mind, not its victim. The third and most crucial step is to pivot, to replace the unwanted thought. It is not enough to simply stop a negative thought. You must fill the space it occupied with a thought that affirms your desired reality. This is not about fighting the darkness. It is about turning on a light. So, when the thought arises, "I'll never be able to afford this," you catch it, you stop it, and you immediately replace it by closing your eyes for a brief moment and reviving the feeling of your wish fulfilled. You pivot to the thought of gratitude. Isn't it wonderful that all my needs are always met with abundance when the thought of loneliness appears? You pivot to the feeling of a loving embrace. You turn your attention away from the problem, the evidence of the senses, and you place it firmly back onto the feeling of the solution, the reality you have accepted in imagination. This brings us to a subtle but vital point. You must not resist the negative thought. The universal law is that what you resist persists. To resist something is to give it your energy and attention. If you fight with a thought, if you struggle against it, you are making it more real. You are like a man caught in quicksand. The more he struggles, the faster he sinks. The elegant art of the mental diet is not to fight, but to pivot. You simply withdraw your attention from the unwanted and place it on the wanted. The negative thought, starved of the fuel of your focus, will eventually wither and vanish. It only has the power that you give it. Think of it like breaking a bad habit. A person who wants to quit smoking doesn't succeed by spending all day fighting the urge, thinking I must not smoke. I must not smoke. This approach keeps the cigarette at the very center of their mental stage. The person who succeeds is the one who replaces the habit. They take up a new hobby. They start exercising. They find a new, positive way to direct the energy that was once channeled into smoking. They become so absorbed in their new, unhealthy activity that the old desire is simply forgotten. It's the same with our thoughts. We do not overcome a problem by obsessing over it. We overcome a problem by becoming so utterly absorbed in the feeling of the solution that the problem fades from our consciousness and, consequently, from our world. Let it be known that the mental diet is profoundly challenging. It will feel like mental gymnastics at first. It will reveal to you the true extent of your own negative programming. You may find you cannot last 10 minutes without breaking the diet, let alone 7 days. Do not be discouraged. This is not a test you pass or fail. It is a practice. Every time you catch a negative thought and successfully pivot, you are strengthening your mental and spiritual muscles. Every time you refuse to indulge in worry, you are reclaiming your power. The reward for this practice is immeasurable. It is a quiet mind, a prevailing sense of inner peace, and the dramatic acceleration of your desires into physical form. For there is no longer any static, no contradictory signal, interfering with the broadcast of your faith. But this daily work of the guardian faces its greatest test when it is confronted by the unyielding, often brutal, evidence of the senses. How do we hold fast to our inner truth of health when the body screams in pain? How do we maintain our assumption of wealth when the bills are piling up to do this? We must learn the master skill of the conscious dreamer, the art of truly and completely living in the end. You are the vigilant guardian of your mind. Practicing the discipline of the mental diet, you catch the thoughts of doubt. You stop them at the gate, and you pivot your attention back to the reality you have chosen. But this noble effort faces its greatest adversary in the relentless stream of information coming from your senses. The world of Caesar, the world of so-called facts, seems to scream in opposition to your inner truth. The body may still feel pain. The bank account may still look empty. The loved one may still be absent. This is the great war of the mystic. The battle between faith and fact, between the seen and the unseen. To win this war, you must employ the ultimate strategy, the master skill of all conscious creators. You must learn the art of living in the end. Living in the end is not a technique. It is a state of being. It is the conscious decision to inhabit your desire emotionally and mentally, right now, long before it is hardened into physical fact. This is a radical departure from the common human state of hope. Hope is beautiful, but it is ultimately an admission of lack. Hope lives in the future. It is a beggar, standing outside the palace gates, wishing to be invited in. It inherently acknowledges a separation between you and your desire. Hope says, one day, this might happen for me. It is a confession of powerlessness. Assumption, which is the foundation of living in the end, is the complete opposite. Assumption is a state of royal knowingness. It is the calm, quiet, and unwavering conviction that your desire is a present fact, merely veiled from your five senses. Assumption does not live in the future. It audaciously pulls the future into the living present. It is the king, already inside the palace, looking out upon his kingdom. Assumption says, "This is already mine now, and the world is simply catching up to my awareness of this fact." Hope wishes for rain while feeling the heat. Assumption feels the cool, refreshing drops on its skin, even while the sun is shining. To practice this art, you must begin to consciously orchestrate your inner world. The primary question to ask yourself throughout the day is this: how would I be thinking and feeling if my desire were an already established fact? Then, you must have the discipline to adopt that mental and emotional posture. If you were already living in your dream home, would you spend your day desperately looking at real estate listings? You would be thinking about what color to paint the living room. If you were already healed, would you spend your time obsessing over symptoms? No. You would be joyfully planning the activities you can now engage in. You must begin to think from the end. This is most powerfully practiced through your inner conversations. Your mind is chattering all day long. For most people, this inner talk is a chaotic rehearsal of worries, arguments, and fears. The conscious dreamer hijacks this inner monologue and turns it into a symphony of fulfillment. You stop replaying the argument you had with your boss, and you start playing an inner scene where a friend is congratulating you on your incredible new business venture. You stop worrying about a health diagnosis, and you start an inner conversation with a loved one about how wonderful it feels to have so much energy and vitality. You use phrases that imply fulfillment. Instead of "I want," you think, "Isn't it wonderful that you are mentally living in a world where your prayer has already been answered?" When the outside world presents you with evidence to the contrary, you learn to react from the end. When an unexpected bill arrives, the old self who lives in lack would panic. The new self, the self who is living in the end of abundance, sees the bill and calmly thinks, "Thank you. This is so easily handled." This is not a denial of the bill's existence. It is a reframing of its meaning from the perspective of someone for whom money is not an issue. You are conditioning yourself to react to life as the person you have decided to become. This persistent, disciplined assumption, this mental living in the end, eventually leads to a profound and sacred state of consciousness. A state Neville called the Sabbath. The Sabbath is not a day of the week. It is a state of mind. It is a spiritual and psychological state of absolute rest. It is the point you reach when you have so successfully and repeatedly lived in the feeling of the wish fulfilled that you no longer feel any desire for it. The longing is gone. The anxiety is gone. The need to keep imagining for it is gone. All that remains is a deep, yet unshakable knowing that it is done. It is a feeling of naturalness. This is the sign that the seed has been fully and properly planted and accepted by the subconscious mind. You can now take your mental hands off. Any further effort, any anxious checking for results, would be counterproductive. To reach the Sabbath is the goal of every creative act. It is the state of total trust in the unseen reality. You have done your work in the workshop of imagination, and now you rest, allowing the powers of the universe to work unhindered. There is no greater story to illustrate this principle than Neville Goddard's own account of his experience in the U.S. Army during World War II. In 1943, he was drafted, much against his will, feeling trapped and powerless, thousands of miles from his home and family in New York City. Desperate, he applied for a discharge but was told it was impossible. He sought the counsel of his old mentor, a man named Abdullah, who simply told him, "You are in Barbados." Neville, stuck in a military camp, was confused. But Abdullah insisted he must sleep in Barbados in his imagination. For several nights, Neville tried and failed. Then, he realized he wasn't truly living in the end. So he changed his approach. He decided he would not just try to get out of the army. but he would be honorably discharged and be physically present in his own apartment in New York City. That night, as he lay on his army cot, he assumed he was in his own bed, in his own room. He did not look at his room. He looked from his room. He saw the familiar streets of New York. He felt the familiar furnishings. He experienced his home with such sensory vividness that it felt more real than the barracks around him. He persisted in this imaginal act for several nights, until he reached the Sabbath. The feeling of being in New York became so natural that the anxious desire to be there vanished. He simply knew he was there. 9 days after he began this process, his commanding officer called him in and, to Neville's astonishment, handed him his honorable discharge papers. The officer himself seemed confused, stating, "I don't know why I'm doing this, but I just know I have to." Neville had successfully lived in the end, and the world had rearranged itself around his immovable assumption. This story reveals both the power of living in the end and the next great challenge that confronts the dreamer. There was a delay, but a period of 9 days between Neville's successful assumption and its physical manifestation. When we are abiding in the state of the wish fulfilled, this interval can feel like an eternity. It is in this gap, this perceived delay, that doubt and fear can creep back in and pull us out of the state of Sabbath. To remain in that state of peaceful knowing, to truly live in the end without being shaken, we must demystify and conquer the greatest tyrant of the human mind, the illusion of time, and understand the magical, logical sequence of events that it uses to bring our assumption to life. You have lived in the end. You have rested in the Sabbath, that sacred state of quiet, knowing where desire ceases, and faith becomes your natural atmosphere. And yet, you open your eyes, and the world of Caesar remains. This is the moment of the great trial, the space between the unseen and the seen, the perceived delay. In this gap, a great tyrant rises in the mind, a monster that feeds on impatience and breathes the fire of doubt. That tyrant is linear time. We are conditioned to see time as an unbreachable wall, a relentless, forward-marching soldier that separates us from our future good. We plant our seed of faith and then stand over it with a stopwatch, tapping our foot, demanding that it sprout now. This anxiety over time is the single greatest reason why successfully planted seeds fail to reach the harvest. To master the art of creation, you must dethrone this tyrant. You must understand, in the very marrow of your being, that time is an illusion, and the path to your desire is not a straight line to be rushed, but a magical, unfolding adventure to be trusted from the perspective of your higher consciousness, your true self. All of time exists at once. Imagine your life as a complete novel, already written and bound. As the human character, you experience the story page by page, chapter by chapter, in a linear sequence. You feel the suspense. You wonder what will happen next. But as the author of the book, you know that the final chapter, the triumphant ending, already exists. It is just as real and complete as the first chapter. It is not something to be created. It is something to be reached. Your imaginal act, your assumption of the wish fulfilled, is like putting a bookmark in that final chapter and declaring, "This is where I am now." You have chosen to identify with the character in the final scene. The feeling of time is simply the experience of turning the necessary pages to get from where you are in the story to the chapter you have bookmarked. The story is already written. The end is secure. How, then, do you turn these pages? How does the universe bridge the gap between your present chapter and your chosen final chapter? It does so through a process Neville Goddard called the Bridge of Incidents. This is one of the most beautiful and mysterious aspects of the creative law. Once your assumption has hardened into a fact in your subconscious mind, a series of events will begin to unfold in your life. These events will seem natural, logical, and often completely unexpected. They are the steps on the bridge, each one leading you, step by step, closer to the physical realization of your desire. The bridge is not always a sunlit, flower-strewn path. Sometimes, the events on the bridge can look like setbacks, even disasters. To the limited vision of the ego, you may assume a new, prosperous career, and the very next day, you get fired from your current job. The ego screams in terror, seeing only failure. But the higher self, the author, knows that losing that job was the necessary first step on the bridge. The only way to free you up to be in the right place at the right time for the new, far greater opportunity. This is where the absolute folly of trying to micromanage your own creation becomes clear. Your conscious, reasoning mind can only see a few possible paths to your goal. Based on your past experiences, you might assume abundance and think, okay, the only way this can happen is if I get a raise at my current job. By fixating on this one specific channel, you are building a tiny, rickety footbridge and ignoring the magnificent, multi-lane suspension bridge the universe is trying to build for you. Infinite intelligence can see pathways you could never dream of. It might orchestrate a chance meeting with an old friend who introduces you to a new business partner, or guide you to read an obscure article that sparks a multi-million-dollar idea. Trying to dictate the how is an act of profound arrogance and doubt. It is telling the master architect of the universe that you know better. It is a declaration that you do not truly trust that your desire is done. And this lack of trust pulls you right out of the Sabbath state and dissolves the bridge before you can even set foot on it. The story of creation is filled with these bridges. In his classic book, Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill tells of men who held a burning desire for success. Their success rarely came in the way they expected. It would be a series of coincidences, a seemingly random chain of events, a conversation overheard on a train, a business that failed, forcing a change in direction, a chance encounter during a storm. In retrospect, every single event, even the bad ones, was a perfect and necessary step on the bridge leading to their ultimate triumph. Your only job, once you have made your assumption, is to walk the bridge that appears before you with faith. You do not need to build it or plan its route. You simply take the next logical, intuitive step that presents itself, trusting that it is part of a divine sequence. So how do we wait gracefully? How do we cultivate the trust and patience needed to allow the bridge to unfold? First, you must shift your perspective when an unexpected event occurs, especially a challenging one. Your first question should not be, why is this happening to me, but rather, how could this be happening for me? How could this be a part of the bridge? This transforms you from a victim into a co-creator, an adventurer on a grand quest. Second, you must practice staying present. Impatience is always future-focused. By bringing your attention back to the now, by finding gratitude for this present moment, you release the anxious need to control the future. You let the universe handle the timing. Finally, you must recognize the feeling of impatience or urgency for what it is, a spiritual alarm bell. It is a signal that you have slipped out of the state of assumption. It means you are no longer feeling that it is done. The remedy is not to try harder in the outer world, but to return to the inner world, to your imagination, and once again assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled until you return to the peaceful state of the Sabbath. You rest in the end until that restfulness becomes your default state. The tyrant of time loses its power when you realize it is not a wall, but a canvas. The perceived delay is not an empty void, but the very space in which the symphony of creation is composed. Your assumption is the conductor, and the bridge of incidents is the orchestra. with every instrument playing its part at the perfect moment to bring your masterpiece to life. Trust the music. Trust the timing. Trust the bridge. But what happens when, despite this newfound trust, despite your faith and patience, the world remains stubbornly unchanged? What if the bridge never seems to appear, and you feel profoundly stuck? This indicates that there is a deeper, unseen force at play, an anchor holding you to your old reality. This anchor is the subtle, powerful energy of unconscious resistance. To finally set sail, we must learn to pull up this anchor and let go. You have learned to live in the end, to trust the bridge of incidents, and to patiently await the unfolding of your desire. Yet, for many, there is a lingering sense of friction, a feeling of being stuck in neutral. You have your foot on the accelerator of faith, but an invisible force seems to be pressing the brake at the same time. You are trying to sail towards the beautiful horizon of your new reality, but the ship refuses to move, held in place by an anchor buried deep in the unseen depths. This invisible force, this hidden saboteur, this emergency brake on your creative power, is resistance. Learning to release it is the final art of clearing the path and allowing your desire to rush into your world with effortless grace. Resistance, in its simplest form, is conflicting energy. It is the inner dialogue of yes, but, yes, I am assuming I am wealthy, but look at all these debts. Yes, I am feeling loved and cherished in my imagination, but he hasn't called me back. That but is a cancellation order. It is a wave of energy that moves in the exact opposite direction of your desire, neutralizing its power. You cannot try to create health while simultaneously indulging in thoughts of fear about sickness. You cannot generate the feeling of abundance while being consumed by the feeling of lack. The universe is receiving two contradictory sets of instructions from you, and in this confusion, it defaults to maintaining the status quo, the reality that is backed by your most dominant, deeply ingrained beliefs and feelings. Releasing resistance is the process of silencing the but and broadcasting one clear, pure, and uninterrupted signal of faith. To release this resistance, we must first diagnose its source. Like a doctor, we must understand the cause of the ailment before we can prescribe the cure. The first and most common source of resistance is putting your desire on a pedestal. You have decided that this one thing, this person, this job, this amount of money is the sole key to your happiness. You believe that you cannot be truly happy or at peace until it arrives. This creates a powerful, desperate, needy energy. It suffocates your desire. You are clutching it so tightly in your mind that you are strangling it. This intense neediness screams a single message to the universe: lack. It affirms, more powerfully than any imaginal act, that you do not currently have what you want, and that your present state is one of painful incompleteness. The second major source of resistance is a deep-seated feeling of unworthiness. This is the insidious weed that grows from seeds planted in early childhood. It is the quiet inner voice that whispers, "Who are you to have such a wonderful thing? You don't deserve it. Good things like that happen to other people, not to you. You can perform your imaginal acts perfectly." But if this underlying program of unworthiness is running in your subconscious, it will act as a constant barrier, a self-sabotaging mechanism that ensures your outer reality always matches your deep inner conviction about what you truly deserve. A third source is a subtle fear of change, even positive change. Your subconscious mind and your ego love familiarity. There is a strange comfort even in a painful but familiar reality. The new reality of your fulfilled desire is, by its nature, unknown territory. If you desire great wealth, your subconscious may fear the responsibility, the changes in your relationships, the new identity you would have to assume if you desire a deep, intimate partnership. Your ego may fear the vulnerability and the potential for loss. This fear of the unknown can create a powerful subconscious resistance to receiving the very thing you are consciously asking for. So how do we dissolve these powerful currents of resistance? The first step is not to fight them, but to acknowledge them with compassion. You cannot release a feeling you are pretending not to have when a wave of doubt, neediness, or fear arises. Do not suppress it. Shine the light of your awareness on it. Acknowledge its presence without judgment. Say to yourself, "Ah, there is the feeling of fear. I see it. I feel it in my body." By simply observing it instead of being swept away by it, you begin to disidentify from it. You realize it is not you. It is just an energy, a cloud passing through your sky. The second, and perhaps most powerful, tool for dissolving resistance is the practice of gratitude for your present moment. Resistance is almost always rooted in a feeling of lack, a focus on what is missing. Gratitude is its perfect antidote. It is impossible to feel genuinely grateful and to feel lack at the same time. The moment you begin to count your current blessings, no matter how small they may seem, you shift your entire energetic state. You move from the frequency of lack to the frequency of abundance. Make it a practice. When you feel the resistance of neediness creeping in, stop. Take a breath. And find 5 things in your immediate environment to be grateful for: the chair that supports you, the light that allows you to see, the heart that is beating in your chest. This simple act short-circuits the pattern of resistance and returns you to a state of grace and flow. Finally, we come to the sacred act of letting go. This is the most misunderstood of all spiritual concepts. Letting go does not mean giving up on your desire. It means giving up your desperate, anxious, and controlling attachment to it. It is an act of profound trust. It is like placing an order with a master craftsman. You give your detailed specifications, your imaginal act, and then you trust the craftsman to do his work. You do not call him every day to see how it's going. You do not worry if he is using the right tools. You have placed the order, and you trust in its delivery. Letting go is this transfer of trust. It is the conscious decision to find your happiness and peace now, in this moment, rather than making it contingent upon the arrival of your desire. It is a declaration of wholeness. There is a beautiful parable for this process. Imagine your desire is a magnificent butterfly. If you see it and decide you must have it, what happens when you chase it? It flutters away, always just beyond your grasp. The more desperately you run and swipe at it with your net, the more erratic and evasive its flight becomes. This desperate chase is the energy of resistance. But what happens if you instead decide to cultivate a beautiful garden? You sit peacefully in your garden, admiring the flowers you already have. You become still, calm, and content in your own space. In this state of peaceful allowing, the butterfly you once chased will naturally be drawn to your beautiful garden, and it will come and land softly upon your shoulder, all on its own. Your desire will come to you when you stop chasing it and instead create a welcoming, non-resistant space for it to land. Many teachers, like those behind the wisdom of Abraham Hicks, speak of this as getting into the vortex. The vortex is a state of pure, non-resistant alignment with your true self and your desires. Everything you want is already there. The only thing keeping you from experiencing it is your own resistant thought. The work, then, is not to chase the desire, but simply to release the resistance. Meditation, gratitude, pivoting your thoughts, and the act of letting go are all simply methods for quieting the resistant mind and allowing yourself to naturally drift into this vortex of well-being, where manifestation is not a struggle, but a natural consequence. Releasing the anchor of resistance is the final, liberating act of faith. It is the ultimate declaration that you trust the process of life. But what if this anchor is not just a passing feeling of fear or doubt, but a deep, foundational law written into your very being? What if the resistance is coming from a core belief about reality that has governed your entire life to achieve true freedom? We must now become constitutional lawyers of the soul and learn how to amend these foundational inner laws. You have learned to release the anchor of resistance, that emotional friction that holds you back. But what if the anchor is not just a rope of feeling, but a chain forged from the very laws you hold to be true? What if the resistance stems from a foundational, unshakable belief about yourself and the world that operates deep below the level of your conscious awareness to achieve ultimate freedom and mastery? We must go beyond managing our feelings and become the legislators of our own reality. We must descend into the sacred halls of our own consciousness and learn to rewrite our inner constitution. Imagine your individual consciousness as a sovereign nation. Your thoughts and actions are the populace, your emotions are the climate, and your core beliefs are the nation's constitution. These are the fundamental, founding laws that dictate how everything in your nation operates. A core belief like "I am not worthy of love" is a constitutional law that guarantees a reality of lonely relationships. A belief like "money is scarce and hard to get" is a law that ensures a national economy of struggle and lack. A belief like "life is a struggle" is a law that creates a culture of hardship and suffering. We live our entire lives within the framework of this inner constitution, never realizing that we are not just its citizens, we are its sole author and have the absolute power to amend it at any time. If your nation is in turmoil, you do not fix it by tinkering with minor regulations. You must go to the source and change the foundational law. The first challenge is that these constitutional laws are often invisible to us. They operate automatically, like the laws of gravity in our world, filtering our perceptions so completely that we mistake them for objective truth. So how do we unearth these hidden directives? The first method is to follow the fruit to the root. Look at the persistent, recurring patterns in your life. These are the fruits. If you consistently find yourself in relationships where you are betrayed, the fruit is betrayal. The root is not bad luck, it is a core belief. It might be "I can't trust anyone," or "I will always be abandoned." If you find that no matter how hard you work, you are always in debt, the fruit is lack. The root might be a belief inherited from your parents that we are the kind of people who always have to struggle, or a deeper belief that having a lot of money would make me a bad person. Your life patterns are the most honest mirror of your deepest beliefs. The second method is to become a linguistic detective, to listen carefully to your own habitual language, especially when you are under stress. Your words are the windows to your laws. Listen for your absolute statements. "I always mess things up." "I can never get ahead." "People always let you down." These are not simple observations. They are verbal recitations of your constitutional articles. They are a form of prayer, an affirmation of a reality you are continuously creating. When you catch yourself saying these things, you have found a core belief. Once a limiting belief has been identified, you must place it on trial in the courtroom of your mind. Do not accept it as fact. Challenge it. Cross-examine it. First, question its origin. Ask the belief, "Where did you come from?" You will find it is not an innate truth. It was given to you. Perhaps it came from a thoughtless comment a teacher made when you were 7. Perhaps it came from watching your parents struggle with their marriage. The moment you realize that a belief is just a second-hand piece of mental furniture you inherited, it begins to lose its power. It is not your truth. It is just a program you have been running. Next, you must question its validity. Ask, is this belief absolutely true? 100% of the time. For all people. Is it true that no one can be trusted? Of course not. You can find millions of examples of trustworthy people by finding evidence that contradicts the belief. You create reasonable doubt. You poke holes in its authority until it begins to crumble. But it is not enough to simply repeal an old law. You must ratify a new one in its place. Nature abhors a vacuum. If you do not consciously install a new, empowering belief, the old one will eventually grow back. This is where the true work of the legislator begins. One of the most powerful methods for writing a new law into your constitution is a technique called scripting. This is not just journaling about your hopes. Scripting is the art of writing out your ideal day or your ideal life in the past tense, as if it has already happened. You sit down and write, "I am so grateful for the incredible day I just had. I woke up this morning in my beautiful home, feeling so energized and peaceful. I had the most wonderful conversation with my loving partner." You fill the pages with rich, sensory detail and, most importantly, with feeling. You are not writing a story, you are creating a memory. You are writing a new chapter of your history. And as you write and reread it, your subconscious mind, which cannot tell the difference between a real and a vividly imagined memory, begins to accept this new story as fact. It accepts this new amendment into your constitution. Another powerful legislative tool is the correct use of affirmations. An affirmation is a presidential decree. It must be stated with authority. In the present tense, "I am wealthy" is a powerful decree. "I will be wealthy" is a weak hope. These decrees are most effective when issued in a receptive state, like the sat state before sleep. As you drift into the subconscious realm, you repeat your new law, your new truth, such as "I am perfectly healthy and whole," or "I am worthy and deserving of great love." You repeat it not as a desperate plea, but as a statement of fact, feeling its truth resonate through your entire being. This process of rewriting your inner constitution requires consistency. Think of your brain as a dense jungle. Your old, limiting belief is a wide, well-trodden path that is easy to walk down. Your new, empowering belief is, at first, just a tiny trail you have to hack through the undergrowth. The first few times you walk it, it's difficult. The jungle tries to grow back. But if you walk that new path every single day, through scripting, through your affirmations, through living in the feeling of it, the path gets wider. The weeds recede. The sun starts to shine on it. Eventually, your new path becomes so wide and clear that it becomes your new default route. The old path becomes overgrown and disappears. You have literally rewired the neural pathways in your brain. You have enacted lasting constitutional change. Modern psychological fields like neuro-linguistic programming (NLP) are built upon this very premise that we have the power to rapidly identify and rewrite these deep programs to change our experience of life. You are the sole and supreme legislator of your inner world. You have the sovereign power to strike down any law of lack, loneliness, or limitation that no longer serves you. You have the authority to write, ratify, and enact new laws of abundance, love, and freedom. This is the ultimate act of self-governance. As you begin this constitutional work, as you repeal the old laws and install the new, you will start to notice something magical happening. The outer world, the mirror, will begin to respond. It will start sending you confirmations, little signs and synchronicities, strange coincidences that seem to wink at you from across the veil. Acknowledging the changes you have made within, learning to interpret these messages, is the next step on our journey of awakening. As you begin to diligently rewrite the laws of your inner constitution, as you persist in feeling the reality of your new state, the world of the mirror begins to stir. you start to notice strange and wonderful things. You will be thinking of a long-lost friend. And a moment later, their name will appear on your phone. You will be cultivating a feeling of abundance. And you will find a forgotten $20 bill in an old coat pocket. You will decide on a new, unusual career path. And suddenly you will overhear strangers on a bus discussing that very field. These are the winks from the universe. The little nods of confirmation that the great mirror of reality has received your new image and is beginning to reflect it back to you. These meaningful coincidences, what the psychologist Carl Jung termed synchronicities, are a beautiful and thrilling part of the creative journey. But they are also the source of one of the most common and debilitating misunderstandings on the spiritual path. The great misunderstanding is the belief that signs are precursors, that they are omens sent from the universe to give you permission to believe. This leads to the desperate and disempowering act of sign-seeking. You begin to beg the world for proof. Dear universe, you bled. If I'm meant to get this job, show me a blue jay. If he's going to call me, let me see the number 222. This is a profound reversal of the creative law. It is an act of spiritual outsourcing. It is confessing that you do not truly believe in the power of your own consciousness, and you need the external world to reassure you, to give you a reason to have faith. But the creative principle is not, you will see it, and then you will believe it. It is, and always has been. You will believe it, and then you will see it. Therefore, we must etch this truth into our minds. Signs follow. They do not precede. Imagine you are standing at the edge of a vast canyon. You take a deep breath and shout a single word into the abyss. A few moments later, from across the canyon, you hear the echo of your own voice returning to you. The echo is the sign. Now, did you wait for the echo before you decided to shout? Did you ask the canyon for an echo as proof that you had a voice? Of course not. The shout was the cause. The echo was the effect. The shout was the independent, creative act. The echo was merely the confirmation that the act had taken place and an acoustic law had been obeyed. It is precisely the same with consciousness and synchronicity, your disciplined imaginal act, your change in core beliefs, your persistence in the feeling of the wish fulfilled. This is the shout, the synchronicity, the sign. The meaningful coincidence is merely the echo bouncing back from the walls of the 3D world, confirming the inner shout you have already made. To look for the sign first is to wait for an echo before you have even opened your mouth. Carl Jung describes synchronicity as an acausal connecting principle, meaning that the events are connected not by a linear chain of cause and effect, but by their shared meaning. The thought of your friend and their text message are connected by the meaning you assign to your friend. This reveals an intelligent, responsive, and holistic universe, one that mirrors not just our concrete actions, but our subjective states of mind. The world is woven together with threads of meaning. And as you change your inner state, you begin to pluck new threads, causing the pattern of your reality to vibrate in harmony with you. This is why the habit of sign-seeking is so detrimental. It keeps you in a state of perpetual waiting, of looking outside yourself for the cause. You see people become obsessed with angel numbers like 1111 or 444, checking the clock constantly, looking at license plates, believing these numbers hold the key to their future. While these patterns can be a fun confirmation, the danger lies in giving them your power. Often, what is happening is a simple psychological phenomenon called the reticular activating system, or RAS. This is a network in your brainstem that acts as a filter for the billions of bits of information you are bombarded with every second. When you decide something is important to you, your RAS is programmed to notice it. If you decide to buy a specific model of a red car, you will suddenly start seeing that red car everywhere. It is not that more of them have suddenly appeared. It is that your brain is now filtering your reality to show them to you. When you decide to focus on your new assumption, your RAS, guided by your subconscious, may start highlighting numbers or symbols that you associate with that assumption. The magic is not in the number. The magic is in the fact that your own consciousness has shifted to such a degree that it is now commanding your brain to filter reality in a new way. The cause is still within you. So, what is the proper way to interact with these signs when they appear? The ideal response is not one of giddy excitement or desperate relief. Giddy excitement can subtly reaffirm that your desire is still a future event, something thrillingly on its way, but not yet here. Desperate relief reveals that you were previously in a state of worry and doubt. The perfect response is a quiet, knowing smile. It is an inner nod of calm acknowledgement. It is the feeling of a master builder seeing the first perfectly laid brick in a foundation and thinking, of course, it has begun. When you see that synchronicity, the correct inner talk is simply, thank you for the confirmation. Or there is the echo, or I see you. You are acknowledging the reflection in the mirror without becoming hypnotized by it. You are treating it as the wake of a ship. It is beautiful evidence of the ship's passage. But it is not the engine. Your consciousness is the engine. The sign simply proves that the engine is running and the ship is moving in the direction you have set. When you see signs in this new, empowered way, they cease to be a source of anxiety and instead become delightful trail markers on your journey. They affirm that you are on the right path, that your inner work is bearing fruit. They are the applause from the universe for a performance you have already completed on the inner stage. You do not perform in order to get applause. The applause is the natural consequence of a masterful performance. Remain faithful to your inner state, to the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Regardless of whether you see 100 signs or none at all, your faith should be in your own creative power, in your imagination, not in the flickering shadows on the cave wall. The signs are the shadows, and you are the one casting them. Now that we have built this complete framework from understanding the world as a mirror, to using the workshop of imagination, to commanding the subconscious, to rewriting our inner laws, and finally to correctly interpreting the echoes of our inner work, we are prepared. We are equipped with the knowledge and the tools to consciously dream a new dream. Let us now take this powerful understanding and apply it to one of the most common and profoundly misunderstood areas of human desire. Let us learn how the dreamer awakens to the consciousness of prosperity. Let us explore how to dream a prosperous dream. We have walked the path of the conscious creator, from understanding the world as our mirror to becoming the vigilant guardians of our own minds. We are now equipped with a powerful truth. Our reality is not imposed upon us, but projected from within us. Let us now take this profound understanding and turn it towards one of the most charged, misunderstood, and intensely desired areas of human experience: wealth. With these principles, we will learn not how to get money, but how to awaken to the consciousness of abundance, to dream a truly and lastingly prosperous dream. The first and most fundamental error we must correct is the idolatry of money. We have been taught to chase money itself. We see it as the goal, the prize, the thing that, once acquired, will finally grant us freedom, security, and happiness. But this is like a man chasing his own reflection in a pond, trying to grasp the shimmering image of the moon while ignoring the moon itself shining brightly in the sky above him. Money is not the thing, it is the reflection of the thing. Money is a shadow on the wall. The thing itself, the cause of the shadow, is a state of consciousness. Wealth is not an amount in a bank account. It is a feeling in the soul. It is the inner atmosphere of security, the deep knowing of ease, the calm conviction that all your needs are and always will be met. To chase the paper is to exhaust yourself in a fruitless pursuit of an effect. The work of the dreamer is to ignore the shadow and cultivate the inner state that casts it. When you embody the consciousness of wealth, the symbols of wealth must appear in your world, as surely as your reflection must appear in a mirror. To cultivate this consciousness, we must first perform a ruthless audit of our inner constitution and repeal the ancient, deeply ingrained laws of poverty that have governed our lives. These laws were given to us so early and are so pervasive in our culture that we mistake them for inviolable truths. The most common of these is the belief that there is some inherent virtue in poverty and some inherent vice in wealth. We hear phrases like "money is the root of all evil," a tragic misquoting of the actual text, which states the love of money, the obsessive worship of the symbol over the source, is the root of evil. Money itself is neutral. It is a form of energy. It is an amplifier. It will amplify the greed of a greedy man, but it will also amplify the generosity of a generous man, the vision of a visionary, and the compassion of a compassionate soul. There is no nobility in the limitation that poverty brings. The inability to provide for your loved ones, to build your dreams, or to contribute meaningfully to the world. Another insidious law in our poverty constitution is the scarcity mindset, the belief that there is a finite pie of wealth in the world, and for you to have more, someone else must have less. This pits you in a state of constant competition and subtle guilt. But the universe does not operate from a finite source. It operates from an infinite, overflowing fountain of substance. Your wealth does not take from anyone else. Any more than your breathing, the air depletes the atmosphere for others. You are drawing from a limitless supply. And the only valve that controls the flow is your own belief. When you truly accept that the source is infinite, the feelings of competition, jealousy, and scarcity begin to dissolve, replaced by a sense of ease and cooperation. Having identified and challenged these old laws, how do we install the new law of abundance? We do it by practicing the feeling of being wealthy now. This is not about being delusional or irresponsible. It is an act of disciplined imagination. Throughout your day, you must stop rehearsing the feeling of lack and start rehearsing the feeling of abundance. When you look at a bill, instead of feeling the familiar knot of anxiety in your stomach, you must practice a new reaction. For a moment, close your eyes and feel how you would feel if that bill were laughably small. A minor nuisance easily handled. Generate the feeling of relief, of security. When you go to a store, instead of mentally calculating what you can't afford, allow yourself to mentally buy anything you desire. Walk through the store in your mind's eye, not with the feeling of longing, but with the feeling of appreciative ownership. The purpose of this game is not to acquire things, but to generate the feeling of freedom and choice. This feeling, when practiced, reprograms your subconscious mind. You are training yourself to feel normal in a state of abundance. You are becoming the actor who so fully inhabits the role of a king that he begins to carry himself with a royal air long before he steps on stage. This leads to a profound and often overlooked principle of prosperity, the law of circulation. A consciousness of lack hoards. It is fearful. It clutches its resources tightly, afraid that if it lets anything go, nothing will come back. This hoarding instinct, this damming of the flow, is a powerful affirmation of scarcity, a consciousness of abundance. On the other hand, circulates. It gives freely and joyfully, knowing that it is connected to an infinite source. This is the spiritual principle behind tithing or conscious giving. The purpose is not to buy a blessing from God. The purpose is to make a powerful statement to your own subconscious mind. When you give, even a small amount, from a place of trust and a feeling of abundance, you are declaring, I have more than enough. I am a channel for the infinite. This act breaks the hypnotic spell of lack. The amount is irrelevant. The feeling behind it is everything. To give $10 with a feeling of joyful abundance does more to create wealth than to give $1 million with a feeling of obligation or fear. The law of circulation has two parts: giving and receiving. We must also learn to be gracious receivers. When someone pays you a compliment, receive it fully. Do not deflect it. When a friend offers to buy you a coffee, accept it with a joyful thank you, without feeling the immediate need to reciprocate and cancel the debt. To be a poor receiver is to tell the universe that you are not worthy. Gracious. Open receiving affirms your worthiness and keeps the channel of abundance open. The great teacher of prosperity consciousness, Wallace D. Wattles, taught in his classic audiobook, The Science of Getting Rich, that it is not only your right, but your duty to be rich. He argued that you can make your greatest contribution to the world only by making the most of yourself, and you cannot make the most of yourself if you are limited by poverty. Imagine a person who feels trapped by financial struggle. They adopt these principles. They stop complaining and start cultivating the feeling of security. And they decide to practice the law of circulation. Perhaps they start by simply leaving a slightly larger tip at a restaurant than they normally would. They do it not as a sacrifice, but as a deliberate act to feel, for one moment, like a person of abundance, a person who can be generous. That single act, and the feeling it generates, is a powerful prayer. It is a new sea. They persist in this. They give a few dollars to a cause they believe in. Feeling the joy of contribution, they start to feel less like a victim of their finances and more like a steward of abundance. And then, the bridge of incidents begins to appear. An idea for a side business pops into their head. A forgotten shield becomes valuable. A new opportunity presents itself at work. The world begins to conform to their new consciousness, not because they chased the money, but because they became a magnet for it by embodying the very feeling of wealth itself. This, then, is the path to dreaming a prosperous dream. It is to turn away from the worship of the shadow of money and to turn inward to cultivate the substance of wealth consciousness. It is to repeal the laws of lack and to embody the feeling of security, freedom, and ease. This is not just about transforming your finances. It is about transforming your relationship with life itself, from one of struggle to one of grace. And if this profound shift in consciousness can so dramatically alter our financial world, what might it do when applied to the most complex, personal, and deeply desired aspect of the human experience? How do we use this same power to dream up the perfect partnership and manifest ideal relationships? We have seen how the principles of conscious creation can be applied to the material world, how a shift in consciousness can manifest a reality of abundance and prosperity. Now, we turn this powerful light inward, to the most sacred, complex, and deeply personal ground of all the landscape of the heart. The search for love, for a true and lasting partnership, is a fundamental human quest. We will now explore how the dreamer, using these same universal laws, can move beyond the world of lonely wishing and dream into existence. A relationship of profound love, respect, and understanding. The first truth we must carry into this tender realm is the most foundational one of all the great relational mirror. The world of your relationships is a direct and flawless reflection of your relationship with yourself. The people you attract, and more importantly, how they treat you, is a perfect externalization of your own self-concept and your deep-seated beliefs about love. If you consistently find yourself in relationships where you feel criticized or unappreciated, it is because you are holding a mirror up to your own inner self-criticism and lack of self-appreciation. If you attract partners who are emotionally unavailable or non-committal, you are seeing a reflection of your own emotional barriers or your subconscious fear of true intimacy. We spend so much energy trying to find the right person, analyzing their flaws, and wishing they would change. This is the same error as yelling at the mirror to smile. The work is not to find a perfect person. It is to build a perfect love within yourself, and then allow the mirror of the world to reflect a person who is a perfect match for that love. This leads us to the most misunderstood prerequisite for manifesting love: the absolute necessity of loving yourself first. Our culture promotes the myth of the other half, the idea that we are incomplete beings searching for someone to make us whole. This is a recipe for codependency and disappointment, as it comes from a profound state of lack. You cannot receive a love from the outside that you do not, on some level, believe you are worthy of. The universe cannot give you what you are not a vibrational match for. True, deep self-love is not narcissism or vanity. It is the act of becoming a whole and complete individual unto yourself. It means you treat yourself with the same kindness, respect, and compassion that you would desire from an ideal partner. It means setting healthy boundaries. It means honoring your own needs and passions. It means enjoying your own company. It is the act of filling your own cup so completely that it overflows and you enter a relationship to share your abundance, not to remedy your lack. You must become the person you want to attract. If you desire a partner who is confident, loving, and emotionally stable, you must first cultivate those qualities within yourself. A crucial distinction must be made here, one that touches upon the ethics and efficacy of this work. Your creative power should be focused on manifesting a state, not on controlling a specific person. While it is possible to focus your imaginal power on a specific individual, it can be a perilous path. It often borders on a desire to override another's free will, and it keeps your focus locked on one single, limited channel, potentially blinding you to an even more wonderful possibility the universe has in store. The more powerful, elegant, and effective path is to focus on the feeling of the end state. Do not fixate on a specific face. Instead, define the qualities and, most importantly, the feeling of your ideal relationship. What does it feel like to be completely cherished? What is the feeling of deep trust and security? What is the feeling of laughing with your best friend and passionate lover? This is the state you must capture in your imagination. By focusing on the feeling state of being in a perfect partnership, you create the mold, and you allow the infinite intelligence of the universe to fill that mold with the perfect person who is in perfect harmony with that vibration. This may be the specific person you had in mind, if they are a true match. Or it may be someone so much better suited for you that you will be grateful your specific desire was overruled by a higher wisdom. To cultivate this state, we use our creative workshop. You must construct a short, simple imaginal act that implies you are already in a committed, loving relationship. Do not imagine a first date, a proposal, or a wedding, as these are all processes of becoming. You must imagine from the state of already being. Perhaps the most powerful technique is to feel an imaginary wedding ring on your finger. Throughout the day, and especially as you drift to sleep, you feel the simple, solid presence of that ring. It is a silent, constant affirmation that implies the entire story of love and commitment is already a fact. Another powerful scene is an intimate, mundane conversation. Imagine your head resting on your partner's chest, and you are discussing your shared future. Using the word our. Isn't our home beautiful in the morning? The word our is a potent creative seed. You can also imagine the simple, profound feeling of physical touch, not necessarily passionate, but secure. Imagine holding hands while walking, or the comfortable feeling of an arm draped around you. These quiet, Domestic scenes, when saturated with the feeling of love and security, are far more powerful than grand, dramatic fantasies. They build the feeling of naturalness. Finally, to make space for this new love to enter your life, you must be willing to release the ghosts of the past. You cannot build a new, beautiful temple of love on a foundation of old rubble. This means doing the courageous work of letting go of past hurts, resentments, and negative patterns. You must forgive past partners, not for their sake, but for yours, so that you can release the toxic energy you are still carrying. You must stop telling the old, sad story of how you've been wronged. This is where the technique of revision is invaluable. Go back in your imagination to painful moments from past relationships and rewrite them. Revise the harsh words into kind ones. Revise the breakup into a mutually respectful parting. The goal is not to deny history, but to neutralize the emotional charge of these old memories, to pull the venom from their fangs so they no longer have the power to poison your present consciousness. You are clearing the garden so that a new, healthy flower can grow. To dream up your perfect partner is, therefore, an inside job. It is an act of profound self-creation. You become the love you wish to see in the world. You build the feeling of being cherished and adored within your own heart, until the man or woman who perfectly matches that feeling has no choice but to walk into your life. Not as a savior, but as a reflection of the love you have finally given to yourself. The dream partner appears when you, at last, become the dream partner to your own soul. But what happens on this journey when things seem to go wrong? What if, after all this work, an old pattern reappears, or a promising connection dissolves into disappointment? The novice sees this as failure. The master dreamer knows better. They know that in this creative universe, there is no failure, only feedback. On this journey of conscious creation, you will inevitably face moments that test your faith. You will have faithfully imagined your desire, cultivated the feeling of the wish fulfilled, and rested in the Sabbath, only to have the mirror of reality reflect back to you the very opposite of what you have assumed. A promising business deal will fall through. A person you were manifesting a relationship with will start dating someone else. A health condition will seem to worsen. In these moments, the temptation to despair is immense. The ego will rise up and scream, "See, it doesn't work. This is all a fantasy." This is the critical juncture, the moment of truth for every dreamer. You can either accept this undesirable outcome as a final, crushing reality, or you can recognize it for what it truly is. For in this philosophy, there is no such thing as failure. There is only feedback. Every event in your world, pleasant or unpleasant, is simply feedback. It is the universe holding up a perfectly accurate report, showing you what you have been, up to that moment, predominantly assuming to be true. If an unwanted event occurs, it does not mean your imaginal acts were powerless. It simply means that an older, more deeply rooted subconscious assumption was still dominant and has now expressed itself. The unwanted event is the fruit of a hidden root. Instead of seeing it as a verdict, you must learn to see it as a diagnostic tool. It is a gift of awareness, pointing you directly to a limiting belief that still needs to be uprooted. To accept an undesirable event as the final word is to abdicate your power. But to see it as feedback is to retain your power, for it gives you the information you need to adjust your inner work. And thankfully, we have been given a divine tool, not just to adjust the future, but to redeem the past. This is the sacred art of revision. The technique of revision, as taught by Neville Goddard, is perhaps the most profound and powerful application of the creative principle. It is the ability to alchemize the unwanted events of your day, and indeed your entire life, into gold. The practice is this: at the end of your day, preferably in a relaxed and meditative state. You review the day's events, pass them through your mind. From morning to evening, if you recall any scene or event that was unpleasant, that you wish had happened differently, you do not dwell on it in regret. Instead, you stop and you rewrite it. You replay the scene in your imagination. But this time, you revise it to conform to what you wished had happened. You transform the argument into a loving conversation. You change the letter of rejection into a letter of acceptance. You turn the feeling of embarrassment into a feeling of pride. You must do this with full sensory vividness, truly feeling the reality of the revised version, until it feels more real than the event you physically experienced. But how can this be possible? How can rewriting the past affect the future? This is where we must transcend our limited understanding of time. As we have discussed, past, present, and future exist simultaneously in the infinite realm of your imagination. Your memory is not a static file in a cabinet. It is a living, creative act happening in this present moment. Every time you remember a past event, you are recreating it now. And the emotional charge of that memory sends out a vibration now. A painful memory, when recalled, generates feelings of sadness or anger now. And that present feeling helps to create more circumstances that will cause sadness and anger in your future. The past is never dead. It is constantly planting seeds in your present for your future. Revision is the act of becoming a sculptor of time. By revising a memory, you are not lying to yourself. You are replacing a negative creative act with a positive one. You are creating a new memory. Your subconscious mind accepts this revised memory as the truth of what happened. And since your subconscious is the builder, it proceeds to build your future on this new foundation. The negative ripples from the original event are nullified, and the positive ripples from the revised event begin to flow forward, changing the course of your future in ways you cannot imagine. The practical applications of this are limitless. On a simple level, you can use it to prune the small annoyances of your day. If a cashier was rude to you, revise the scene to one where they were exceptionally kind. This prevents you from carrying that small negative energy with you. If you made an embarrassing mistake during a presentation at work, revise it. Feel yourself delivering the presentation with confidence and eloquence. Feel the applause and congratulations. This erases the self-recrimination and builds a new self-concept of competence. Revision is especially powerful in relationships. If you have a painful argument with a loved one, do not go to sleep replaying the angry words. Lie down, and in your imagination, rewrite the entire conversation. Imagine yourself saying the compassionate, understanding thing you wish you had said. Imagine them responding with love and forgiveness. Feel the warmth of reconciliation. You will be astonished at how this inner revision can miraculously smooth over the outer situation, often causing the other person to soften and apologize, without them ever knowing what you did. Neville told a powerful story of a man who came to him in despair. He had just lost a major business contract that was crucial for his company. He was facing ruin. Neville told him not to accept it, but to revise it. The man went home, and that night, instead of worrying, he imagined a different scene. He imagined his business partner calling him on the phone, not to commiserate, but to shout with joy, "We got the contract." They changed their minds. He played this imaginary conversation over and over in his mind, feeling the immense relief and triumph, until he fell asleep in that state of success. The next morning, the physical world conformed. His partner called him on the telephone, used almost the exact words the man had imagined, and explained that the company had, for reasons they couldn't quite articulate, reversed their decision overnight and awarded them the contract. This was not a miracle. This was the law. The man replaced a cause in consciousness, and the effect in his world had to change. It is crucial to understand that revision is not a form of spiritual bypassing or denial. Denial is a fearful act. It is refusing to look at an unpleasant fact. Revision is an act of supreme creative power. It is looking squarely at an unpleasant fact, and then, as the operant power in your universe, calmly and deliberately replacing it with a more desirable fact within your own imagination. The only place where reality is truly born. You are not pretending the first event didn't happen in the 3D world. You are refusing to give it any ongoing life. And you are changing its consequences by overriding its cause. With the tool of revision, your past is no longer a prison. No mistake is final. No regret needs to be carried. No day is ever wasted, because any part of it can be redeemed and turned into a stepping stone for your success. You are the master of your entire story, from beginning to end. This grants you a profound sense of freedom and peace. Now, revision teaches us how to change the memory and consequence of events. But what happens when the challenge is not a single event, but the consistent, predictable, and often negative behavior of a specific person in our lives? To change this, we must take the mirror principle to its ultimate conclusion and understand the true relationship between the dreamer and the figures that populate the dream. With the art of revision, you have learned to redeem any undesirable event, to rewrite the pages of your past and thereby alter the trajectory of your future. But we now arrive at a deeper, more persistent challenge. What do we do when the issue is not an isolated event, but the consistent and predictable behavior of a person in our lives, the critical parent, the unreliable friend, the demanding boss? We have tried to change them, to argue with them, to plead with them, all to no avail. We have tried to change the reflection in the mirror by force. Now, we must learn the truth of our relationship with them. We must learn that in the dream of life, there are no independent others acting upon us. There are only dream figures, actors faithfully playing the roles we have assigned them, speaking the lines we have written for them in the silent script of our own consciousness. This is the advanced application of the principle. Everyone is you, pushed out. Let us be clear about what this means, for it is perhaps the most radical and liberating truth in this entire philosophy. It does not mean that other people are mindless puppets with no consciousness of their own. Every person in your world is the center of their own universe, dreaming their own dream. But the version of them that enters your dream, the face they show to you, the role they play upon your stage, is a direct reflection of what you are assuming and believing about them, and more fundamentally, about yourself. Within every person is the potential to be a saint or a sinner, a critic or a champion, a lover or an enemy. You, through your assumptions, are the one who casts them in a specific role. You are calling forth from their infinite potential the specific aspect that perfectly corresponds to your own state of consciousness. Grasping this truth leads to a profound and challenging consequence: the complete and total end of blame. If the people in your world are only reflecting you, then there is no one to blame for anything that happens to you. The person who betrayed you was only playing the part of the betrayer because you held a subconscious assumption of being betrayed. The partner who abandoned you was only playing the role of the one who leaves because you held a deep-seated fear or expectation of abandonment. This is a difficult truth to swallow because the ego loves the drama of victimhood. It loves to point the finger and say, "You did this to me." But the moment you blame another, you give your power away. You declare yourself to be, in effect, a victim of an outside cause. The moment you take 100% responsibility, not fault, but creative responsibility, you reclaim your power. It is a terrifying and then exhilarating realization. You are the sole cause in your own world. And if you are the cause, you can produce a new effect. So how do we apply this in a practical sense? How do you change another person's behavior without speaking a single word to them in the outer world? The process begins with diagnosis. When someone in your life is behaving in an undesirable way, you must stop focusing on their behavior and instead turn the spotlight inward. Ask yourself, what concept do I hold of this person? What story do I tell myself about them? And even more deeply, what do I believe about myself in relation to them that is causing them to play this part? Perhaps you see your boss as a tyrant. The deeper belief might be, I am not competent, and I need to be controlled. It is this deeper belief about yourself that is the true cause. Once you have identified the assumption, you stop all inner arguments and complaints. You do not rehash their negative behavior in your mind. That simply fertilizes the root of the problem. Instead, you enter the workshop of your imagination, and you recast them. You must now see them not as they are, but as you wish them to be. In the privacy of your own mind, you have loving, respectful conversations with them. You imagine them praising you, supporting you, showing you the side of themselves you wish to see. You must make this new version of them more real in your imagination than the old version you experience with your senses. This is the art of blessing others. To bless someone is not just a religious platitude. It is a powerful creative act. When you think of this person, you consciously refuse to see their flaws and instead see only their highest self. You bless them with the traits you desire them to express. You are seeing them through the eyes of love. And because the world is your mirror, they must eventually reflect that loving gaze back to you. Let us imagine a modern parable. A manager is constantly frustrated with an employee she perceives as lazy, unmotivated, and incompetent. Her first instinct, the way of the world, is to criticize, to threaten, or to fire the employee. This is trying to change the world by force. But instead, she decides to try this principle. She stops complaining about him to others. She stops her inner arguments with him. Every morning before work, she sits quietly for 5 minutes and performs an imaginal act. She sees this employee in her mind's eye, and she feels a deep sense of appreciation for him. She imagines him being proactive, brilliant, and a tremendous asset to her team. She congratulates him in her imagination on a job well done. She does this consistently, saturating her mind with this new, revised concept of her employee. At first, nothing in the outer world changes, but she persists in her assumption. Then, slowly, she begins to notice a shift. The employee speaks up in a meeting with a good idea. He turns in a project ahead of schedule. He starts to show more initiative. Over the course of a few weeks, his behavior transforms so completely that he becomes one of her star performers. Did she change him? No. She changed her assumption about him. And he, as a figure in her dream, had no choice but to conform to the new role she had written for him. She changed the cause within herself, and the effect in her world had to change. This is the pinnacle of living as a conscious dreamer. You realize that your world is populated not by strangers, but by messengers, by different facets of your own magnificent self. The person who challenges you is your teacher, showing you a belief you need to release. The person who loves you is your mirror, showing you the love you have cultivated within. This understanding dissolves resentment, eliminates blame, and fills you with a profound sense of peace and interconnectedness. You stop trying to change people and instead focus on the only thing you can ever truly change: your concept of yourself. You are the dreamer, and they are the figures in your dream. You write the script, you direct the play, and you cast all the parts. This realization of your total creative authority naturally brings forth one of the most profound philosophical questions. If you are the sole creator of your reality, scripting every interaction, is your life a predetermined movie you are simply watching unfold, or do you possess true free will? Where does your power to choose begin and end, as you stand in the full realization of your creative power? Understanding that you are the sole cause of the phenomena of your life, a profound and ancient paradox emerges from the mist. If you are the writer, director, and star of your own play, is the script already written? Are you merely an actor, moving through a predetermined plot that you, at some higher level, have already composed? Or are you a truly free agent, making choices in the moment that alter an unwritten future? Is your life a story of predestination or a story of free will? This question has haunted philosophers and mystics for millennia. The answer, from the perspective of the conscious dreamer, is not a simple choice between one or the other. The answer is a sublime synthesis of both. To unravel this paradox, we must introduce a concept that is the master key to understanding the structure of reality. It is the idea of parallel realities, or what we will call lifelines. Ancient wisdom has long taught, and modern theoretical physics has begun to echo, that every possible version of reality already exists as a potential. There is a reality where you are a celebrated artist, a reality where you are a humble farmer, a reality where you took that job, and a reality where you did not. An infinite number of complete, self-contained lifelines, each a full and coherent story from beginning to end, exist simultaneously as possibilities in the infinite mind of God. In the quantum field, within any single lifeline, the principle of predestination holds true. A lifeline is defined and governed by a central state of consciousness, a core set of assumptions. The lifeline born from the state of I am unloved has its own script, its own series of events, its own cast of characters, and its own logical conclusion. If you are consistently inhabiting that state of being unloved, the events of that script, the rejections, the misunderstandings, the loneliness are indeed predestined to unfold for you. In the same way, the lifeline of I am profoundly prosperous has its own predetermined script, filled with its own unique opportunities, windfalls, and synchronicities. The law is perfect. A given state of consciousness must, by law, outpicture a corresponding sequence of events. So where does your freedom lie? Your free will is not, as most people believe, the power to struggle against the events on your current lifeline, to fight against the circumstances of the unloved lifeline while still feeling unloved is a futile and exhausting battle. Your true, God-given free will is your absolute power to select which lifeline you experience. You exercise your free will not by changing the outer world, but by changing your inner state of consciousness. Every time you successfully perform an imaginal act, every time you shift your core beliefs, every time you choose to feel the wish fulfilled, despite the evidence of your senses, you are performing the supreme act of free will. You are, in that moment, shifting yourself from one parallel reality, one lifeline, to another. Think of reality as a television with an infinite number of channels. Each channel is playing a different movie, a different lifeline. Each movie is already complete, from opening credits to final scene. This is predestination. If you are on Channel 7, the movie of lack and struggle, you can scream at the characters and hate the plot, but the movie will play out as it was made. Your free will is the remote control in your hand. You have the absolute power to change the channel. You can, through a shift in your feeling state, change from Channel 7 to Channel 888, where the movie of abundance and joy is already playing. You do not create the movie on Channel 888. You simply select it. Your true freedom is the freedom to choose your state of being. Let us use a more modern analogy, a cosmic GPS. Your consciousness is the vehicle. Your assumption, your feeling of the wish fulfilled, is the destination you type into the system. The moment you set that destination, I am happily married. I am financially free, the infinite intelligence of your subconscious mind. The GPS instantly calculates the perfect route. That route is the bridge of incidents. In this sense, the route is predestined by the destination you have chosen. The turn-by-turn directions, the events that will unfold, are set. Your job is simply to follow the route with faith. But here is where your free will is absolute. At any moment on that journey, you have the sovereign power to pull over and type in a new destination. You can say, I've changed my mind. This destination no longer serves me. I choose this even greater destination instead. The GPS does not argue. It does not judge. It instantly erases the old route and calculates a new, perfect route to your new chosen destination. Predestination is the calculated route. Free will is your eternal power to choose the destination. This understanding should bring you a profound sense of peace and release you from the burden of worry. You are not desperately trying to create a future out of nothing. You are simply selecting your preferred future from an infinite menu of already finished realities. This is why worrying about the future is one of the most illogical things a person can do. Why would you spend your precious, creative, present moment energy worrying about a future you have absolutely no intention of selecting? Your only work is to concern yourself with your state of being. Now, are you currently tuned to the channel you wish to watch? Are you embodying the feeling of the destination where you wish to arrive? Your present state of consciousness is your act of choice, your exercise of free will, your selection of the lifeline that will unfold before you. You are not a pawn of fate, helplessly moved by forces beyond your control. Nor are you a frantic, stressed-out builder, trying to lay the bricks of a future you can't be sure of. You are a sovereign selector, a calm and powerful chooser of realities. Your freedom is absolute, and it is exercised not in the future, but in this eternal moment of now. Through your choice of what you assume to be true, this realization of your immense power to choose any reality you desire naturally brings us to a more subtle and sophisticated inquiry. If you can choose anything, what should you choose? Are all desires created equal? Is the desire for a fleeting pleasure born from the same divine place as the desire for lasting peace? To become a truly masterful dreamer, we must learn to distinguish between the superficial cravings of the personality and the deep, authentic callings of the soul. We must learn to tell the difference between the ego's wish and the soul's urge. You stand now as the sovereign selector of your reality, holding the remote control to an infinite number of lifelines. This power is absolute. You can choose a reality of fame, a reality of solitude, a reality of adventure, a reality of peace. But this incredible freedom brings with it a question of profound importance, a question that separates the novice creator from the master dreamer. With this infinite choice, what desires are truly worthy of being brought into existence? Are all desires born from the same place, and do they all lead to the same destination of joy? The truth is, they do not. To wield your creative power with wisdom, you must learn to discern between the clamoring, needy voice of your ego and the quiet, resonant hum of your soul. To understand this distinction, we must first understand the two voices. The ego is your personality construct, the mask you wear for the world. It was forged in your past, from your experiences, your conditioning, and your perceived wounds. Its primary motivation is survival and self-preservation, which often manifests as a deep-seated fear of lack and a feeling of separation from the rest of life. The ego believes it is small and vulnerable, and therefore it constantly seeks things from the outside world to validate itself, to make itself feel safe, and to prove its worth. It is the part of you that compares, that competes, and that worries. The soul, on the other hand, is your true self, your core of being, the I am presence. It is the dreamer behind the dream. The soul operates from a state of love, unity, and wholeness. It knows no lack and has no fear. Its only motivation is to experience and express itself more fully, to expand, to grow, and to create for the sheer joy of it. The desires that spring from these two sources feel radically different. An ego's wish is born from a perceived deficiency. It is a craving designed to fill a hole. The ego says, I need that luxury car so that people will finally respect me. The root is a feeling of being disrespected. It says, I need to be with that specific person because their love will prove that I am worthy. The root is a feeling of unworthiness. An ego's wish is often loud, anxious, and urgent. It carries the frantic energy of, I must have this, or I cannot be happy. It is focused on acquiring something external to fix something internal. When you pursue an ego's wish and achieve it, the satisfaction is often fleeting, because the underlying feeling of lack remains, and the ego simply moves on to the next craving, the next thing it needs to feel whole. A soul's urge, by contrast, is born from a sense of fullness. It is not about filling a hole, but about expressing a truth that is already within you. It feels less like a desperate want and more like a gentle, persistent pull. It is the quiet inner voice that says, learn to play the guitar. Not to become a rock star, but for the simple joy of making music. It is the urge to start a community garden, not for praise, but for the love of bringing people together and nurturing life. A soul's urge is focused on becoming and expressing. It often feels expansive, peaceful, and joyful, even if the path to it seems challenging or illogical. Pursuing a soul's urge feels like coming home. The fulfillment it brings is deep and lasting because it is an act of authentic self-expression, not an attempt to patch up a wound. So how do we? In the midst of our complex human desires, learn to discern the difference. The first tool is the why test. When a strong desire arises, take a moment to become a detective of your own motivations. Ask yourself, why do I want this? And when you get an answer, ask why again. Keep drilling down until you hit the foundational emotional root. For example, I want a new, high-powered job. Why? To have more prestige. Why? So that my family will finally be proud of me. Why? Because right now, I feel like I'm not good enough in their eyes. You have found the root of feeling of inadequacy. This is an ego's wish. Compare this to, I have an urge to start my own graphic design business. Why? Because the act of creating beautiful things brings me immense joy. Why? Because it feels like what I was born to do. The root is joy and self-expression. This is a soul's urge. The second tool is your own body's wisdom. Your body is an incredibly sensitive instrument that does not lie. Find a quiet space. Close your eyes and bring your desire to mind. Now, notice what happens in your body. Does your stomach clench? Does your chest feel tight? Is there a sense of tension in your jaw or shoulders? This feeling of contraction is the signature of fear, of the ego. It is a sign that the desire is rooted in lack and anxiety. Now, bring another desire to mind, one that feels more aligned. Do you feel a sense of opening in your chest? A feeling of warmth, of peace, of a gentle yes resonating through you. This feeling of expansion is the signature of love, of the soul. Your body will always tell you which voice is speaking. Consider the parable of the successful lawyer. A man grows up with a deep need to earn the approval of his stern, successful father. This egoic need drives him to become a high-powered corporate lawyer. He achieves tremendous external success, the wealth, the corner office, the respect of his peers. He has gotten everything his ego wished for. Yet, he is filled with a quiet anxiety and a sense of profound emptiness. He is successful, but he is not joyful. After years of this inner turmoil, he begins a journey of self-inquiry. He realizes his entire career was built on the ego's need to prove his worth. He also discovers a long-suppressed memory from his childhood, the simple, profound joy he felt in his grandfather's woodshop. The smell of the sawdust, the satisfaction of creating something beautiful and useful with his hands. This was a soul's urge he had silenced for decades. Courageously, he begins to follow it. He starts woodworking on the weekends. The joy it brings him is more real than any courtroom victory. Eventually, he leaves his law practice to become a custom furniture maker. He has less status and less money. But for the first time in his life, he feels whole. He is not trying to get anything. He is simply expressing who he truly is. Aligning your formidable creative power with the authentic urges of your soul is the secret to a life of deep fulfillment. It is the difference between frantically redecorating a prison cell and joyfully building a magnificent cathedral. The ego's wishes will give you temporary satisfaction, but the soul's urges will lead you to lasting peace. This conscious choice to move beyond the demands of the ego and to align with the creative impulse of the soul represents a major evolution in your understanding of this power. You are moving beyond the popular, often superficial understanding of the law of attraction, which can become a tool for the ego to just get more stuff. You are stepping into a more direct, more potent, and more profound framework. You are ready to understand the law of assumption. In our journey so far, we have moved from the basic principles of creation to the subtle art of discerning the very nature of our desires. Learning to separate the fleeting wishes of the ego from the deep, resonant urges of the soul. This evolution in understanding requires an evolution in our framework. Many of you who have walked this path have been introduced to the creative principle through what is popularly known as the law of attraction. This law, which has served as a crucial gateway for millions, teaches that like attracts like, and that by focusing on positive thoughts, you can attract positive experiences. This is a valuable first step. It awakens us from the slumber of victimhood to the possibility that our thoughts have power. But it is only a stepping stone, a kindergarten classroom for a subject that has graduate-level depths. To truly wield your creative power, you must move beyond the concept of attraction and embrace a more direct, more potent, and more accurate principle, the law of assumption. The popular interpretation of the law of attraction, for all its benefits, contains a subtle but profound flaw that keeps many of its practitioners in a state of perpetual striving. The very word attract implies separation. It suggests that you are here, and your desire is over there, in the distance. And you must use your energy like a small magnet to pull it towards you across the void. This framework, by its very nature, keeps you focused on the absence of your desire. If you feel you must attract health, it is because you are keenly aware of your current state of sickness. If you are trying to attract wealth, your consciousness is rooted in your current state of lack. This creates a fundamental energetic conflict. You are trying to pull something towards you while your very state of being screams that it is not here. This is why so many feel they are on a hamster wheel of positive thinking, trying to vibrate high enough to finally deserve their desire. A process that is often exhausting and fruitless. The law of assumption presents a revolutionary and liberating alternative. It states, Simply, that an assumption, though false, if persisted in, will harden into fact. There is nothing to attract, because creation is already finished. Every possible reality, every potential outcome, everything you could ever possibly desire, already exists, right now, as a potential state of consciousness within the infinite mind of God. You do not create your desire, you select it. You do not pull it to you from the outside. You awaken it from within you. The work is not to change the world, but to change your assumption of who you are in the world. When you change your assumption, you shift your position in the infinite multiverse and begin to experience a different, pre-existing reality that matches your new state. This is the meaning behind the profound statement, creation is finished. Imagine a vast library containing an infinite number of books. Each book is a complete life, a complete reality. The book of your current life is in your hands, but in that same library, there is a book telling the story of your life in perfect health. Another telling the story of you as a celebrated artist. Another as a beloved partner. All these stories are already complete. The law of attraction, in its popular form, teaches you to stand where you are and try to magically pull a chapter from another book into your current one. The law of assumption teaches you that you have the power to simply put down the book you are currently reading and pick up the one you prefer. The key that allows you to do this is your assumption. By assuming the feeling of being the person in that other book, you are shifting your consciousness to that reality. Let us use a simple, powerful analogy: an inheritance. Imagine you are living a modest life, struggling with finances. One day, you receive an official letter from a lawyer informing you that a long-lost relative has left you a vast fortune of $10 million. In the moment you read that letter and accept it as fact, what happens? The money is not yet in your bank account. The paperwork is not yet signed. But in your consciousness, are you still a poor person trying to attract wealth? No. In that instant, you are a wealthy person. Your entire being shifts. The way you walk, the way you think, the worries that occupied your mind a moment before simply dissolve. You are now acting and feeling from the assumption that you are wealthy. The subsequent events, the legal processes, the transferring of funds are what Neville called the bridge of incidents. They are the secondary effects, the necessary unfolding in the world of time and space that must follow your inner shift in consciousness. You did not attract the $10 million. You assumed the state of being a person who has $10 million, and the money had to follow as a natural consequence. This is the subtle yet monumental shift from the law of attraction to the law of assumption. It is the shift from "I will attract" to "I am." Notice the difference in the energy of these statements. "I am attracting abundance" still contains the seed of lack. It is a process happening in the future. "I am abundant" is a statement of being, a declaration of present tense reality. This is not a game of semantics. It is a fundamental shift in your self-concept. You are no longer the seeker, hoping to find. You are the finder, claiming what is already yours. You are no longer the magnet, trying to pull. You are the center of your universe, projecting your state of being onto the screen of space. When you operate from the law of assumption, the strain and effort dissolve. There is no need to vibrate higher, because you understand that all vibrational states are available to you now, and you simply need to choose which one to occupy. There is no need to worry if you are doing it right, because you know that your only task is to persist in the feeling of the wish fulfilled. It is a far more direct, elegant, and powerful path, because it places the creative power exactly where it belongs, not in the hands of an external, capricious universe that you must persuade, but entirely within your own wonderful human imagination. This is the ultimate reclamation of your divine heritage. You are not a piece of driftwood on the ocean of life, hoping the right wave will come along. You are the captain of your own ship, with the power to set a course for any destination you choose, knowing that the destination already exists, waiting for your arrival. This realization that the power to choose and to be is entirely contained within your own consciousness leads us to the very heart of this mystery. What, precisely, is this central power? What is this I that does the assuming? We must now explore the nature of the I Am presence, the name of God itself. We have journeyed from the outer world to the inner, from technique to feeling, from the law of attraction to the more direct power of assumption. We have come to understand that the ultimate creative act is to claim our desire as a present reality, to declare with faith, I am that which I desire to be. This brings us to the final doorway, the threshold of the ultimate mystery, for after all, the exploration of mind and reality. One question remains, vibrating at the very center of it all. What, exactly, is this I that does the assuming? What is the nature of this I Am presence that we have discovered is the source and substance of all creation? The answer to this question is the key to unlocking a state of being so peaceful and powerful that it transcends the need for any technique at all. In the ancient scriptures of the world, the deepest truths are often veiled in story and symbol. In the biblical book of Exodus, the prophet Moses stands before a burning bush, an impossible manifestation of divine power, and asks for the name of the creator he is speaking to. The response he receives is the most profound and revealing statement in all of Western metaphysics. The presence does not give a name like a king or a tribal deity. The voice declares its own nature with the phrase, I am that I am. This was a revolutionary revelation. It declared that God is not a being with a name, separate from us, sitting on a throne in the heavens. It declared that God is the unnameable, immediate, and ever-present consciousness of being itself. The name of God is the feeling of your own awareness. Before you are a man or a woman, before you are rich or poor, before you are American or any other nationality, you are. Simply, you are. That fundamental, silent, and ever-present awareness of being is the I Am. Think of your awareness, your I Am presence, as a perfectly clear and infinite canvas. It has no shape, no color, and no form. It simply is. This is your true, unconditioned nature. But from the moment you are born, the world begins to paint on this canvas. Your parents give you a name, and a small part of the canvas is conditioned to be John or Mary. You are told you are shy, or you are smart, and another part of the canvas gets colored in. You have experiences of lack, and you paint a picture of I am poor. You have experiences of heartbreak, and you paint I am unlucky in love. We spend our lives identifying with these paintings. With these conditions we have placed upon our own infinite being, we become so fixated on the ever-changing images on the canvas that we completely forget that our true identity is the canvas itself, the pure, unlimited potential upon which any image can be painted. Your power and your responsibility lie in what you choose to attach to your I Am. Every sentence you speak or think that begins with I am is a divine decree. It is a creative command, taking the infinite, unconditioned energy of God and forcing it into a finite form. When you casually say, I am so tired, you are commanding the infinite to express itself as tiredness through you. When you complain, I am always broke, you are using the name of God to create a reality of perpetual lack. When you accept a negative diagnosis and say, I am sick, you are taking the presence of life itself and clothing it in the appearance of sickness. This is why the mystics taught to become exceedingly careful with your speech and your thoughts. you are constantly defining yourself. And your I am, your subconscious mind, dutifully and lovingly agrees with you and brings forth a reality to match your declaration. Consider the simple parable of the clay. Imagine a single, large lump of pure, formless clay. This is the I am, pure potential. A potter comes and takes a piece of this clay and molds it into a simple cup. The cup now has an identity. It says, I am a cup. It looks at another piece of the original clay that has been molded into an ornate vase and thinks, that vase is so much more beautiful than I am. It sees a sturdy brick and thinks, that brick is so much stronger than I am. The cup lives its entire life comparing itself to the other forms, feeling superior or inferior, completely forgetting that its cupness is just a temporary, conditioned state. It has forgotten that its true, essential nature is the same as the vase and the brick. It is clay. At any moment, it could be returned to the original lump and be remolded into anything at all. We are like this cup. We identify with our temporary forms, our bodies, our personalities, our bank accounts, and we forget that our true nature is the pure, formless clay of being, the I am, which is capable of taking on any form we choose. The spiritual journey, then, is a journey of remembering. It is the process of peeling away the layers of conditioning to reconnect with this source energy within. You can do this through a simple meditation. Sit quietly and close your eyes. Let go of the labels you have attached to yourself. Mentally, release your name. Release your profession. Release your roles as a parent, a child, a friend. Release your history, your memories of success and failure. Peel away all the layers of I am this and I am that. As you let these conditions fall away, what remains? What is the one constant presence that has been with you through every experience of your life? It is the silent background awareness itself, the feeling of just being. That is the I aim. To rest in that pure feeling, even for a few moments each day, is to dip your cup back into the infinite well of creation. It is to reconnect with your own power source. When you truly grasp this, you realize that the power you were seeking was never outside of you. The God you may have been praying to is your own wonderful human imagination, your own awareness. You are not a human being separated from a distant God. You are the God presence. The I am, experiencing reality through a human lens for a little while. This realization changes everything. The desperate striving to get things from the outside world ceases, because you know that all things are created from within you. The need for elaborate techniques begins to fade, because you understand that your natural state of being is the ultimate creative technique. This profound shift moves you from a state of effortful doing to a state of graceful and powerful being. To operate from this state of pure being while living in the world is to achieve a state of mastery, a state of effortless action that the ancient Taoist philosophers called Wu Wei. It is the state where you do not act upon the world, but the world acts through you. You have journeyed to the heart of your own being and stood in the presence of the ultimate creative power, the I am. You have come to understand that this awareness is not a part of you. It is you. It is the formless clay from which all forms are molded, the silent canvas upon which all worlds are painted. To know this intellectually is a profound revelation. To live from this knowledge is to achieve a state of sublime grace known to the ancient Taoist sages as Wu Wei. This is the final graduation for the dreamer, the point at which you cease to be a frantic creator and become creation itself, moving through the world with an effortlessness that looks like magic to the unawakened eye. Wu Wei is often translated as non-action or effortless action, a concept that is easily misunderstood by the Western mind, which is conditioned to equate success with struggle, effort, and hustle. Wu Wei is not passivity, laziness, or apathy. It is the state of spontaneous, right action that flows not from the anxious calculations of the ego, but from a deep, intuitive alignment with the Tao, the natural, unfolding way of the universe. It is the difference between a novice swimmer, frantically thrashing against the current, and a master swimmer, who uses the current's own power to glide forward with grace and ease. The thrashing is the ego's doing, the gliding is the soul's being. So how does one arrive at this state? Wu Wei is the natural consequence of having fully and completely mastered the law of assumption. It is the state that prevails after you have reached the Sabbath. The frantic energy of doing stems from the belief that you are separate from your goal. The struggle, the effort, the forcing of will, all of this is born from the assumption of lack. The belief that I am here, and my desire is over there, and I must expend enormous energy to bridge the gap. But what happens when you have so fully assumed the feeling of your wish fulfilled that it has become your natural self-concept? What happens when you no longer hope for it, but simply know that you are it? The desperate need to do anything to get it simply vanishes. The struggle ceases. You have become the person who already has your desire. And now you simply begin to act in a way that is natural for that person. These natural actions are Wu Wei. The egoic mind, the mind of struggle, operates like a nervous chess player, trying to calculate every possible move 10 steps ahead. It is fueled by fear and past data. It says, last time this happened, I failed. So now I must control every variable to prevent that from happening again. It tries to force open doors, to manipulate people, to control outcomes. It is exhausting, inefficient, and operates in constant resistance to the natural flow of life. The intuitive mind, the voice of the Tao flowing through you, operates like a river. It does not worry about the rock that is a mile downstream. It simply flows around the rock that is right in front of it, effortlessly finding the path of least resistance. Wu Wei is living as the river. You have set your destination, your assumption, and you trust that the river of life knows the way. Your actions are not born of anxious planning, but of present moment, intuitive guidance. Consider the parable of a creative entrepreneur. Glada. She wants to build a successful, innovative company. Operating from the ego, she hustles relentlessly. She works 18-hour days, forces networking connections, micromanages her employees, and stays awake at night, worrying about her competitors. She is thrashing in the water, and despite her immense effort, she feels exhausted and her business is struggling. Then, she discovers this principle. She stops focusing on the struggle and begins to cultivate the inner state of the successful business owner she desires to be. Every night, she lulls herself to sleep, feeling the deep satisfaction and peace of a person whose company is a thriving, joyful success. She persists until she reaches the Sabbath, the inner state of knowing it is done. Now, her approach changes. She stops forcing. One morning, instead of rushing to the office, she feels a strange, inexplicable urge to visit an art museum. The ego screams, "This is a waste of time. You should be working." But she trusts the feeling. At the museum, she strikes up a conversation with a stranger about a painting and discovers this person is a retired genius of industrial design, the very expertise her company desperately needs. Inspired by the art, she gets a revolutionary idea for a new product line. The next day, feeling peaceful and centered, she holds a team meeting. Instead of micromanaging, she simply shares her new vision and asks for their ideas. Freed from her controlling energy, her team's creativity is unleashed. She is no longer fighting the current. She is acting from a place of inspired flow. Her actions appear effortless, yet they are more effective than all her previous striving. This is Wu Wei. She is not doing nothing. She is taking powerful, inspired action that feels easy and natural because it is aligned with her assumed state of success. This is the state of the master artisan whose hands move without conscious thought. The state of the athlete who is in the zone, whose body responds perfectly without the interference of the analytical mind. It is the state where you no longer live by the law, but as the law. You have so embodied your desired state of being that your intuitions are now the breadcrumbs, leading you along the bridge of incidents. An intuitive nudge to call someone, to read a specific book, to take a different route to work. These are not random whims. These are the effortless Wu Wei actions that are the next logical steps on the path to your physical reality. To live this way requires a profound trust in the guidance that comes from beyond the rational mind. It requires that you value the quiet whisper of your soul over the loud shouting of your ego. This state of effortless being is the ultimate freedom. The weight of the world lifts from your shoulders, because you know that the universe is not something you have to conquer. It is a loving, intelligent system that you are a part of, and it is working with you and for you. Your only job is to choose your state of being, to assume your highest ideal, and then to walk gracefully in the direction of your intuitive nudges, trusting that every step is a perfect unfolding of the reality you have already created within. The journey from understanding the mirror to embodying Wu Wei is the full arc of the conscious dreamer. But how do we weave this profound state of being into the fabric of our everyday lives? Amidst traffic jams, deadlines, and daily responsibilities, we must now learn how to live in the world, but not be of it. We must learn to maintain this waking dream. We have journeyed to the furthest reaches of consciousness, from the simple truth of the mirror to the profound realization of the I Am presence, culminating in the graceful state of Wu Wei. We have ascended the mountain of knowledge and stood at its peak, gazing upon the vast landscape of our own creative power. But this wisdom is not meant to be kept on the mountaintop. It is meant to be brought down into the marketplace, to be woven into the very fabric of our daily lives. The ultimate goal is not to have fleeting moments of creative power in meditation, but to live every moment as the conscious dreamer, to transform the entirety of your life into a waking dream. This is the art of integration. To make this philosophy a living reality, we can adopt a simple but powerful threefold daily practice, a rhythm that sanctifies the beginning, the middle, and the end of each day. This practice consists of morning consecration, daytime guardianship, and evening creation. The morning, in the quiet moments after you awaken, is a time for consecration. Before the world rushes in with its demands and its chorus of old facts, you have a sacred window to set the tone for your entire day. This is not a time for frantic visualization, but for calm connection. Before your feet touch the floor, lie in that peaceful, drowsy state and simply feel the truth of your being. Feel the silent, background awareness of I Am. Acknowledge this power within you. This is the source of all your creations. Then, from this place of centered power, gently assume the feeling of the person you have decided to be. If your aim is health, feel the quiet vibrancy and vitality in your body. If your aim is peace, feel the calm stillness in your heart. You are consecrating the day to your chosen state of being. You are anointing your consciousness with your ideal, setting the keynote that the universe will harmonize with throughout the day. The daytime, with all its chaos and interaction, is a time for guardianship. As you move through your day, you are the sentinel at the gate of your mind, practicing your mental diet. But now, you do so with a new understanding. Every challenge, every frustration, every interaction with another person is no longer a random annoyance. It is a test of your mastery. It is an opportunity to practice. When a colleague is difficult, it is a chance to practice seeing them through the eyes of love. When a bill arrives, it is a chance to practice reacting from a state of abundance. When you are stuck in traffic, it is a chance to practice maintaining your inner peace when the outer world is in chaos. You must ask yourself constantly, how would the person I am assuming myself to be handle this moment? You begin to treat your entire day as a spiritual gymnasium. Each event is a piece of equipment designed to strengthen your new state of being. This perspective transforms the mundane into the magical. Life is no longer happening to you. It is a grand training ground, designed for you, helping you to stabilize and embody your new self-concept. The evening, as you prepare for sleep, is your time for creation and redemption. This is when you return to the workshop to perform your imaginal acts in the state akin to sleep. You plant the seeds of your future desires, lulling yourself to sleep in the feeling of the wish fulfilled. But equally important, this is your time for revision. You review the day that has passed, and you alchemize any dross into gold. Did you fail a test of guardianship? Did you react with anger or fear? You do not condemn yourself. You simply revise the scene. You rewrite the script of your day, transforming every misstep into a victory. This nightly practice ensures that you never carry the negative baggage of one day into the next. You end each day with a clean slate, having redeemed your past and impressed your subconscious with your ideal future. Living this philosophy also requires the cultivation of a new dominant attitude, one of wonder and gratitude. You must begin to look at your world with new eyes. Expecting to see the magic, look for the synchronicities, the echoes, and see them as loving winks from your deeper self. When they appear, greet them with a quiet, knowing smile, and above all, cultivate a state of gratitude, not just for the big things, but for everything. Be grateful for the air you breathe, for the food you eat, for the simple fact of your own consciousness. Gratitude is the emotional frequency of receiving. It is a declaration to the universe that you are open to its blessings. A state of gratitude makes it impossible for resistance to take root. It is the soil in which all happy manifestations grow. As you integrate these practices, a profound shift in motivation will occur. Your journey likely began with a desire to get things. You wanted to manifest a specific outcome, a car, a house, a relationship, believing that this thing would be the source of your happiness. But as you experience your own creative power, you will realize that the prize was never the thing itself. The true prize is the awakening to your identity as the creator. When you know, with absolute certainty, that you can create any reality you choose, the desperate need for any one thing dissolves. The hunger is replaced by a playful sense of creative joy. You stop creating to fill a hole, and you start creating for the sheer love of the game. Your creative acts shift from the anxious prayer of, "I need this to be happy," to the joyful, sovereign declaration of, "Wouldn't it be fun if?" This is true freedom. This is the peace that passes all understanding. And so we arrive at the culmination of our journey together. When you first began listening, you may have felt like a character in a story written by someone else. You felt subject to the whims of the plot, reacting to the scenes that were presented to you, a prisoner of a narrative you did not choose. Through this journey of understanding, you have done something miraculous. You have walked off the page. You have stepped out of the story and into the quiet, powerful study of the author. You have looked down and realized that the pen has been in your hand all along. Your life is no longer a book to be read with apprehension. It is a beautiful, blank journal with crisp, empty pages waiting for you to write your own magnificent story. You are the author. You are the hero. You are the dreamer of the dream. And so, The dream does not end. It simply becomes a conscious one. We have traveled far on this journey of consciousness, from the startling realization that the world is but a mirror, to the discovery of the divine workshop of our own imagination. We have learned to speak the language of feeling, to command the loyal servant of the subconscious mind, and to redeem our past with the sacred art of revision. We have moved from seeing others as strangers to recognizing them as figures in our own dream. And we have untangled the great paradox of fate and free will. We have stood at the center of our own being and felt the silent, powerful hum of the I am, the name of God, as our own true identity. We have, in essence, journeyed from the edge of the painting to the artist's hand, from the character in the story to the author's chair. As we conclude, let us be clear about the ultimate purpose of this knowledge. The goal of this awakening is not simply to become a master manifester, capable of accumulating a mountain of possessions or controlling the events of your life to suit the whims of the ego. That is but a child's use of a divine power. The true prize is not the manifested thing, but the profound, unshakable realization of your own creative power. It is the awakening to your true nature as the dreamer of the dream. The ultimate aim is to find that place of inner peace and freedom that is not contingent on any external condition. Joy, love, and security are not destinations. You arrive at once you get the perfect relationship or the perfect bank account. They are states of consciousness you can choose to inhabit right now, and from which all good things will naturally flow as their effortless reflection. You have been given the keys to the kingdom. The kingdom is, and always has been, within you. Do not let this understanding remain a mere intellectual curiosity. Integrate it, practice it, and live it until it becomes as natural as breathing. Treat every moment as an opportunity to remember who you are. The power that dreams the entire cosmos is not a distant force. It is your very own consciousness. It is dreaming through you, as you. Right now, the life you are experiencing is not a solid, unchangeable reality. It is a luminous, malleable, and magnificent dream. The dream awaits its dreamer. Wake up.